Hello, Paranormal M viewers. Welcome back to the channel where we share paranormal experiences. I seriously love doing this, getting to sit here and tell you stories from all over the world. And don't forget to drop a comment. I love reading what you have to say. Alright, let's jump into today's story. Also, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks so much. So, this happened a couple months back, and I still get that tight feeling in my chest when I think about it. After my grandma passed, I moved into her place. It was this big, creaky old house, like the kind where the floors complain every time you take a step. It didn't feel scary at first, just quiet. Too quiet sometimes. One night, I was home alone, parked on the couch with the TV on, waiting for my friends to come over. We'd planned a little girls' night. Snacks, gossip, laughing at dumb movies, the whole thing. I remember I'd made popcorn and set out plates like I was trying to make the place feel less empty. When the girls got there, everything felt normal again. We picked a stupid comedy, something easy, and turned it up loud enough to drown out the house sounds. And then, not long after we started watching, we heard this tapping. Just a light tap, tap, tap somewhere near the front of the house. All of us paused like, was that the door? I even joked that maybe the pizza guy was early. I got up, checked the door. Nothing. No one on the porch. No car outside. Just the dark yard and that still, heavy silence. So we brushed it off. Old houses make noises, right? Pipes, branches, whatever. We went back to the movie. A little while later, the food finally arrived. This time there actually was someone at the door, thank God. We were laughing again, eating our pizza, relaxing, and I started thinking we'd imagined the tapping. Then maybe 20 minutes after that, we heard scratching. Not downstairs, not outside, right above us, like something was dragging its nails across the ceiling. I swear my entire body went cold. I could feel my face drain, like all the color just left me. My friends kept glancing at me because they could tell I was trying to act fine, and failing. I finally whispered, "Okay, we should check upstairs." So we did the bravest thing we could think of. We held hands like little kids and went up together. I'm not kidding. Hand in hand, slow steps. Every stair creaking under our weight like the house was announcing us. We checked every room. The bathroom, the guest room, the closet, the attic door. Nothing. No animal. No broken window. No explanation. We stood there in the hallway, staring at each other, and no one wanted to be the one to say, "Let's go back down," like we were just going to pretend we didn't hear it. But we did. We went back to the living room, turned the movie back on, tried to laugh. A few minutes passed and my friend, Lena, the one who's always the most confident, wasn't talking anymore. She was just stiff, like she was frozen in place. And then she leaned toward me and said, barely audible, I saw something." I turned the volume down and asked her what she meant, and she goes, "In the mirror. Just for a second, a tall, black shape, like it was behind us." Her voice was shaking so hard it sounded painful to get the words out. And the thing is, Lena doesn't do that. She's not dramatic. She's not the type to fake a reaction. She looked like she was about to cry. Right after she said that, the tapping came back. Louder, faster, like someone was irritated we weren't listening. Then the scratching started again, only this time it sounded heavier, more aggressive, like it was right above our heads and moving. The ceiling lamp actually trembled a little, and I remember thinking, why does it feel like the whole house is vibrating? I couldn't even explain it properly. It wasn't just noise, it felt angry. That's when Lena, because of course it was her, said, "Wait, I have my spirit box." I looked at her like she had lost her mind. I wanted to say no. I should have said no. But honestly, I was so scared that a part of me was desperate for any answer, even a terrifying one. So she turned it on, and I swear to you, it started spitting words out non-stop, like it couldn't wait to talk, one right after another. Leave. Lena. Unclean. You're not safe. Are you afraid? Not alone. Demon. We just stared at it, frozen, like our brains couldn't keep up with how fast it was happening. My stomach felt like it was dropping over and over again. And then, right when Lena went to turn it off, we heard a growl. Not like a dog, not like a person trying to be funny. Something low and guttural, like it came from deep inside the walls. All three of us screamed, like full-on panic screaming. We didn't even grab our stuff. We just bolted out the front door and stood on the porch, shaking, breathing too fast, looking back at the windows like we expected something to be staring out at us. We ended up going to my friend's car and sitting with the doors locked, just trying to calm down. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. And the worst part? Even outside, we could still hear faint tapping inside the house. So yeah, I'm still staying here for now, because life is complicated and moving isn't instant. But I'm not pretending it's fine anymore. I already called someone to come bless the house next week. And until then, I don't sit in that living room at night. I don't look at mirrors if I can help it. And I definitely don't watch comedies in silence anymore. Hey, I'm gonna try to tell this in a way that makes sense, but I need you to understand up front. I'm not even sure what sense is supposed to feel like anymore. Most days, I can't decide what's real and what's not. And yeah, I've heard that thing people say, if you're crazy, you don't know you're crazy. But I think about it constantly. Like, what if the fact that I'm asking means nothing? What if I'm already gone and this is just me standing in the ashes, trying to name the smoke? So, I'm 19. I'm a guy. When I was little, I got diagnosed with ADHD and was on meds for a while. Eventually, I got taken off them around middle school because everyone said I was doing better. And maybe I was. Or maybe I just got better at hiding how loud my head could get. There's no big family history of schizophrenia or anything like that. At least none that anyone admits to. Just ADHD here and there. So that's what messes with me. Why do I feel like I'm walking around with a cracked lens? Why do my dreams feel like they're connected, like they're chapters from the same book? Why does everything link up in a way that makes my stomach drop? Because the dreams, if I can even call them dreams, don't feel random. They feel like nostalgic nightmares. That's the only way I know how to explain it. Like I belong there in this horrible place, and sometimes it's terrifying, but sometimes it's weirdly comforting. And I hate that I can't tell you why. When I was younger, I tried to be logical about it. I'd wake up and go, okay, dreams have rules. You can't read right, time doesn't work, you don't have full control, your brain's foggy. And for a while, that all checked out. But around 16, maybe late 15, something changed. It started with this vibration, right in the center of my head. It would happen when I laid down to sleep, not every night, but often enough that I couldn't ignore it. At first I thought it was stress, or anxiety, or maybe I was just imagining it because I'd read too much online. And I'm still skeptical, by the way. I'm not telling you this like I think I'm chosen or awakened or anything dramatic like that. If anything, I'm telling you this because I don't trust myself. But the vibration, over time, I learned I could kind of bring it on. Only when I was lying down. If I focused on it, it would spread, like from my head down my neck and into my chest, then into my arms, and especially into my fingertips. It's like my whole body becomes a tuning fork. And if I lean into it, I fall asleep. Except, it's not sleep the way you're thinking. Because then, I'm there. And there doesn't follow the usual dream rules. I can read. I can hold conversations. I can understand details. I'm me. I have control of myself, my choices, my movement. But I don't have control over anything else. Not the people. Not what happens. Not where things go. Two things stand out more than anything. One, pain is real there. Not metaphorical, not dream pain where you wake up and laugh it off. I mean physical pain and mental pain that sticks to you like a smell you can't wash out. Two, when you die there, you don't wake up. You go somewhere else. And the worst part? It's always the same places. Like there's a map. Like dying is just a door and the hallway beyond it is familiar. Now, before all of that started, there's something from when I was a kid that I can't shake. When I was about 8, we lived in this old house in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm not going to say the exact address. Feels weird to put that out there. But it was an older place off one of those streets where every house looks like it has secrets in the walls. We didn't know anything about the history when we moved in. My grandpa was really religious. My mom believed in demons and angels and all that. My dad, my real dad, was always the skeptic type. I grew up kind of in the middle, like I was constantly being pulled between everything is spiritual and nothing is real. In that house, I started seeing things. Shadows. The back door in the kitchen would slam at night like somebody was coming in and out, but there'd be nobody there. I heard footsteps and warped voices, sometimes late, sometimes in the middle of the day, like it didn't care what time it was. I remember going to school nearby. Honestly, school was the only place I felt safe. I dread walking back into that house, like the air changed the second you stepped inside. And at first, no one believed me, until it got worse. One night, my parents had this heavy wooden dresser, like solid, packed, impossible to tip unless you really tried. They were in bed when they heard it go over. My dad jumped up first, went out into the hall, and my mom stayed behind because she was scared. He told me later it didn't make sense. It wasn't like it slid. It was like it flipped. After that, things sped up. My cousins were staying over one night, and we fell asleep on the floor in my room. I woke up and couldn't move, my first time ever having sleep paralysis. I was panicking, trying to scream, trying to yank my arms up, and nothing worked. It felt like minutes stretched into forever. And when I finally could move again, I looked up at this little shelf we had, where we kept random little decorations and toys. And there was one thing that wasn't right. There had been this cute little dog figurine my uncle won at a fair for my mom, like a silly prize. But what I saw wasn't that. What I saw looked like a baby doll with black eyes, like empty black. Its face looked wrong, like it had been crying forever. It had this dirty, torn little bonnet and a stained bib, like something you'd find in a ditch behind an abandoned daycare. I know how that sounds. I know. But here's the part that still messes me up. Even though I was wide awake, I felt that vibration for the first time. My head and shoulders buzzing like electricity. My whole body flooded with adrenaline and disgust, and something deeper, like a primal dread, like my body recognized danger before my brain could explain it. I tried to wake my cousin, tapping him over and over while I stared at that thing. When he finally woke up, he didn't get it, like his mind refused to focus on what I was pointing at. I kept whispering, "Look up, look up, look up." And then I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted. He came out right after me screaming, full-on screaming. And I've asked him about it since, and he swears he doesn't remember what happened. He doesn't remember why he screamed. He says it's blank. But that scream woke everyone up. My aunt and uncle, my parents. And I tried to explain, stumbling over my words, describing this doll that looked like something you should never see in real life. The closest comparison I have now is that creepy baby scene from an old movie I saw later as a teenager, like the same kind of wrongness. Not long after, we moved, but we didn't move far. We ended up across the street, same neighborhood, same routine. And in that next house, it wasn't the building that got to me, it was a person. One Sunday, a new kid showed up, a girl about my age, and something about her made my blood run cold. She was dressed like she was from another time. Black shoes, white stockings, a plain pale dress, brown hair. But her skin looked wrong, too smooth, too glossy, like porcelain, like a doll someone tried really hard to make real. The second she walked in, I wanted to leave, and that vibration hit again. Only this time it came with something else. This sick, crawling feeling, like my brain was screaming, "This doesn't match, this doesn't match, this doesn't match." Uncanny. That's the word I know now. Back then I didn't have a word for it. I just knew I was scared, and I felt trapped in that little room with her. And the weirdest part was nobody else reacted. Nobody. The other kids kept coloring. The teacher smiled like everything was normal, like I was the only one who could see whatever was off. I told the teacher I had to use the bathroom. I lied. The second I got out of that room, I ran. Up the stairs, into the main service, straight to my grandpa. He asked why I wasn't in class, and I blurted it out. How something was wrong with the new girl, how she didn't feel human, how I felt sick. He laughed at first, called me silly, hugged me, took my hand, and he walked me back down the stairs. But when we got to the doorway and he saw her, his face changed. I've never forgotten it. He didn't laugh anymore. He didn't tease me. His eyes got heavy, like he'd seen something he didn't want to remember. He turned around, grabbed my hand again, and led me back upstairs, fast, like he didn't want to give the room another second of us. And when he looked at me, he had this wrecked look on his face, like he was trying not to cry. My grandpa is a tough man. I've only seen him cry a couple times in my entire life. But in that moment, he looked like he was holding back something huge. He kept me with him for the rest of the service. Then we left early. He still goes to that same church now, but after that day, he didn't go back for a few weeks. Years later, when I asked him what happened, the first time he acted like I made it up. The second time he just said, "Some things are better left alone." And that was it. That was the last time I felt the vibration until I got older, until that whole sleeping and not sleeping thing started. So now here I am, 19, trying to be rational. I'm not super religious. I believe in God, I guess, but I'm skeptical about almost everything. And the vibrations? Maybe they're nothing. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's some weird neurological thing. Maybe it's my mind playing tricks. But then I remember the pain in that other place, and the way dying doesn't wake you up, and the same locations repeating like they're stamped into my head. And I think, if it's all imaginary, why does it have rules? Why does it feel consistent? Why does it feel like it's been waiting for me longer than I've been waiting for it? And I hate that part of me still wonders if I'm losing my mind, or if I'm finally noticing something I was never supposed to notice. Either way, I'm tired of carrying it alone. I just want someone to hear me say it out loud and not immediately decide I'm lying, or crazy, or special. I don't want special. I want real. So, from about 4th grade through 7th, I lived in this 3-bedroom apartment with my mom and my 2 sisters. My mom worked constantly, like 6 days a week most weeks, sometimes even pulling an extra shift on Sundays if things got busy. She'd get home around dinner time, in that way where you can tell she's been holding herself together all day, which meant a lot of the time, it was just us kids. And honestly, most of the time, it was just me. I was the youngest, and I was already jumpy by nature. Back then, nobody called it anxiety, but that's what it felt like. This constant tightness in my chest, like I was always waiting for something to go wrong. And it didn't help that I watched way too many scary movies. Like, way too many. So I always wondered if I did it to myself, If my brain just learned how to terrify me and never stopped. But that apartment, it didn't feel normal. Not ever. It started small. Cabinets in the kitchen would click open and shut when nobody was there. A drawer would slide out just a little, like someone tugged it and changed their mind. I'd hear whispery little sounds. Sometimes it felt like my name. Sometimes it felt like just a random, hey, like someone testing the air. I used to play computer games in the living room, mostly Sims, and I'd keep the kitchen light on because the dark was my enemy. And then, out of nowhere, the kitchen light would just turn off. No flicker, no slow dim, just gone. And suddenly the only light was the blue-white glow from the monitor, making the living room feel like a cave. One night I was at the computer, and I heard something that still makes my skin crawl when I think about it. It sounded like someone in the kitchen on their hands and knees. Not footsteps, crawling. Like palms and knees on the floor, dragging forward. And every time something like that happened, I had two modes. I'd either run to my room and shut myself in, or I'd freeze and pretend I didn't hear anything. Like if I ignored it hard enough, it would get bored. Sometimes I felt safer in my mom's room because it was closer to the living room, and she at least felt like a shield, even when she was asleep. Her room had these sliding doors that opened toward the living area, and I swear to you, when I'd be out there on the couch trying to fall asleep with the TV on, the keyboard on the computer desk would start typing on its own. Not like a soft tap, hard clicks, like someone was angry or in a rush. I would just lie there staring at the ceiling, too scared to even breathe loud. And of course my imagination would paint a picture. In my head, I'd see this girl, pale, long dark hair hanging forward like a curtain, sitting at the computer with this bright, thick pink headband, like the kind kids used to wear back then. Just typing away in the dark, like she belonged there. I hated that my brain did that, but I couldn't stop it. One morning, this was like around 6 a.m. I know because the sky outside had that deep, bluish pre-sunrise glow. I had a nightmare, and I couldn't take being alone in my room anymore. So I went into my mom's room and climbed into her bed. Her sliding door to the living room was cracked open, and right away, the apartment started acting up. I heard dishes shifting in the sink. Then the cabinets, open, shut, open, like someone was pacing but using the kitchen instead of feet. I nudged my mom and whispered, "The dishes are moving." She got quiet for a second, like she heard it too, but she never believed in that stuff. She always had a rational answer ready, even half asleep. She rolled over and basically went back to sleep, but I couldn't. I lay there wide awake, listening. And I heard it move. Not like it shifted from wind, I mean wheels rolling, like someone was pulling it across the wooden balcony floor. Then, through the blinds, I saw a shadow pass the window, like a person moving in front of the glass. I didn't even scream. I just did this automatic survival thing. I dove under the covers and pulled them tight around my whole body like fabric could make me invisible. I remember thinking, if I'm fully covered, it can't see me. That moment stamped itself into my memory, like it got branded in. Another time, middle of the day, nothing scary happening, sunlight, everything normal. I was sitting on the balcony just looking up at the sky, trying to calm down like kids do without knowing that's what they're doing. The chair was right under my mom's window, and I noticed movement above me. Someone was peeking through the blinds. I could see fingertips bending them open. I could see eyes. And then, those eyes shifted and looked right at me. I shot up and yelled because I thought one of my sisters was messing with me. I ran inside ready to fight, heart pounding, embarrassed and furious and scared all at once. Nobody was there. My mom's sliding door was open. The curtains were pushed aside. I could see the whole room, empty. And after that, the feeling of being watched became constant, especially at night. My sister and I shared a room. The layout was weird. When you walked in, there was this short wall right ahead, and behind it was part of the closet. Our bunk bed was along the left side, and I slept on the bottom. And at night, I'd feel it, like someone standing just behind that little wall near the doorway, not moving, just there. I'd be under the blanket sweating, heart thudding so hard it felt loud enough to hear. I'd tell myself not to look, because if I looked and saw something, I didn't know what I'd do. Sometimes the cabinet in the half bath would creak open on its own. The light would shut off. I started locking the bathroom door, but I'd still hear the knob twist sometimes, like someone testing it. And I got weird habits, like I started leaving closet doors open. I don't even know why. Maybe I thought if they were open, nothing could surprise me by opening them. Or maybe I thought it would prove I wasn't scared, like the apartment was challenging me and I was trying to act tough. The full bathroom was the worst. I was terrified to shut the door. The shower drain would make these sounds that reminded me of little voices, like distant kids talking through a pipe. Even flushing the toilet felt too loud, like it would summon something, like something would leap out while the noise covered its steps. I was so tired all the time, but I fought sleep like it was dangerous, and when I did fall asleep, it was heavy and restless, night terrors, sleep paralysis. I'd get so sleep-deprived I'd nod off in school and jerk awake feeling trapped in my own body. I still don't know how I functioned. A couple times I woke up and my mattress was shaking, not like a small vibration, like it was being jostled up and down fast, like somebody had grabbed the bed and was trying to rattle me awake. And then there was the worst night, the one that I can still picture like a photograph. I was sleeping facing the wall, and I dreamed I saw a shadowy figure, like a person made of smoke. In the dream, I was running to my sister, telling her I'd seen a ghost, and then I fell asleep inside the dream, like dream within a dream. And when I opened my eyes for real, something was right in front of my face. At first, I thought it was a blanket or a pillow because the TV was on and the light was shifting. And then it moved. It was a face. A boy's face. His nose so close to mine it felt like they were touching. His eyes were locked on mine, like he'd been waiting for me to wake up. He looked about 11 or 12, like a real kid. He had this soft blonde hair, a little wavy, messy in the front, like he had a cowlick, and bright eyes, blue or gray-blue. He was wearing pajamas, this light, silky button-up top with short sleeves and matching shorts, like something you'd see in an old photo. He was lying on his stomach on the bed, propped up on his elbows, hands close together like he was comfortable, like he belonged there. We just stared at each other. And then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, more like a smirk, like he was amused, like he'd pulled a prank and I'd fallen for it. He even swayed a little, playful, like it was funny. My entire body went cold and hot at the same time. That feeling where adrenaline explodes through you. My fingertips buzzed, my stomach dropped, my heart felt like it fell straight into my legs. I yanked the covers over my head so fast I thought I might tear them. I was shaking, sweating, holding my breath, trying not to make a sound. After a few seconds, maybe longer, I don't know, I slowly lowered the blanket just enough to peek out. And he was gone. So this was about, nearly 20 years ago now. I was living in this one-bedroom apartment for maybe a year and a half, and honestly, I loved the neighborhood. I liked the place too, most of the time, but there was always this weird feeling in it, like the air didn't fully settle. It was a pretty normal apartment, decent-sized for a one-bedroom, in a building that felt fairly new. Nothing spooky on the outside, Just regular walls, regular doors, regular carpet. But the bedroom layout is burned into my brain. When you walked into the bedroom, along the left wall I had my dresser and this big closet. Across from that, kind of tucked into the far left corner, was my little desk. At first, my bed was more centered in the room, but later on, I pushed it into the right corner, thinking it would free up space and make things feel cozier. It did not make things cozier. The thing is, I barely even used that bedroom. I hated sleeping in there. Too much streetlight sneaking through the blinds, too much noise. But I had this unbelievably comfortable couch in the living room, like sleeping on a warm cloud, and I'd just pass out there without even trying. So that became my real bed. Same thing with work. I'd tell myself I was going to be responsible, sit at my desk, get things done, and then I'd end up curled on the couch with my laptop. I was in that bedroom maybe 5% of the time, if that. At first, when I moved in, I don't remember feeling anything particularly creepy, especially when the bed was still in the middle of the room. But over time, I started noticing that one corner, the desk corner, felt off. And it wasn't dramatic, like a horror movie. It was more like your body quietly saying, "Don't hang out here." Just this heavy, unpleasant vibe that would creep up on me during the day. Then I moved the bed into the right corner, and suddenly the whole room felt worse. Like I'd rearranged the furniture and accidentally rearranged the atmosphere too. A few times, I forced myself to sleep in the bed anyway, trying to be normal, you know? Trying not to let my imagination run my life. But every time I did, I'd lie there feeling tense and unsettled, like my nervous system was bracing for something it couldn't explain. And I'll be the first to admit, I can spook myself. I can watch one weird video, read one creepy thread, and suddenly every shadow looks suspicious. So I kept telling myself it was just that. But then, there were the shadow people. Not every night, not constantly. But on more than one occasion, I'd wake up and see these dark, human-shaped shadows, up near the corners, sometimes where the wall met the ceiling. Just there, watching. Or at least, existing in a way that made my skin go cold. I don't even like saying it out loud because it sounds so dramatic, but it's what it felt like. And that was basically the moment I permanently noped out of sleeping in the bedroom. Couch life forever. No regrets. Now, I was dating someone at the time. His name was Evan, and once in a while he'd stay over. And I still slept on the couch like always. I never told him any of this. Not the bad vibes, not the corners, not the shadow stuff. Partly because I didn't want to sound unhinged, and partly because I didn't want to plant the idea in his head. But here's the part that still sticks with me. And I remember just staring at him. Because I hadn't said a word. Not even hinted. We talked about it a little, and of course the logical explanation is sleep paralysis. Weird sleep cycles, stress, your brain filling in gaps. Totally possible. Probably likely. But it was still strange to me that he experienced something so similar without any suggestion from me. Another thing that felt bizarre was how the bad corner shifted depending on the time of day. During the day, that desk corner felt heavy and wrong. But nighttime didn't bother me as much there. And then at night, it was like the opposite corner became the one that made my stomach twist. Like the room had different moods depending on the light. Even now, I'm not saying, yes, the apartment was haunted, because I genuinely don't know. But it became this shared experience that made me wonder about corners in general. Why corners feel creepy sometimes. Why so many people report seeing shadow figures in them. I read somewhere once, no idea where, I wish I could remember, that some cultures preferred rounded corners in rooms because sharp corners were thought to be places where energy collects, or where things can sort of gather. Entities, spirits, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know how literal I take that, but I do think it's interesting. Because shadow people? That's a surprisingly common thing people talk about. But what I've always been more curious about is the feeling. Those weird, bad vibes that seem to pool in a corner like cold air. And honestly, even now, when I walk into a room and one corner just feels wrong for no clear reason, I still think about that apartment. And I still, without meaning to, give that corner a little extra space. So, when I was a kid, I grew up in this tiny town where people didn't just tell scary stories. They lived like they were true. Spirits, curses, bad luck that followed you home. All of it. And our house? Our house had a reputation. It was this old, slightly crooked place. Warm and homey, but with this weird feeling you couldn't quite name. My parents would never say it outright, but they'd trade these looks sometimes, like, yeah, something's not right here. At first, it was small stuff. Annoying, harmless. I'd set a toy down and gone. Then I'd find it later in a spot that made no sense, like inside the linen closet, or tucked behind the couch cushions, like someone had hidden it on purpose. My mom would leave her phone on the counter, turn around, and later it would be inside a cabinet with the plates. My dad once swore he put his work gloves right by the back door, and the next morning they were out in the yard, damp, like they'd been dragged through the grass. We asked around, because in a town like that, you don't keep mysteries to yourself. One neighbor, this old guy who always sat on his porch, said, "Probably a ghost. Someone passed in that house a long time ago." Real casual about it too, like it was a leaky faucet. But then there was another neighbor, a woman named Mara, always wrapped in this deep red scarf, always speaking like she knew more than she should. When my mom mentioned the missing things, Mara didn't even blink. She just tilted her head and said, real quiet, "That's not a ghost." My mom asked, "Then what is it?" Mara leaned in a little, lowering her voice like the walls might be listening. "Goblins." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Like, come on, goblins? That sounded like a bedtime story. But Mara didn't laugh back. She just looked right at me, and I swear the air felt colder. "They're playful at first," she said. "They like to move things, little jokes. But if you ignore them, they get bolder." And my stomach dropped because I was a kid, and the word boulder sounded like a promise. My mom asked what we were supposed to do. Mara gave this advice like it was the simplest thing in the world. Leave sweets around the house, little bowls, candies. Keep them happy, and they'll stop. It sounded ridiculous, honestly. But after weeks of weird little incidents and my parents starting to look genuinely tired, desperation makes you do things you'd normally roll your eyes at. So that night, we did it. We put out candy in small dishes, by the front entryway, near the windows, on a shelf in the hallway. My mom even slid a few pieces under my bed, like we were making an offering to something we couldn't see. And then, I'm not joking, it stopped. No more vanishing toys. No more missing phone. No more gloves showing up outside like they'd taken a midnight walk on their own. The house felt normal again. Quiet in that ordinary way, not that watching way. For a long time, I told myself it was just coincidence. Kids want explanations, and adults want things to make sense. So I convinced myself we'd just hit the end of whatever strange phase it was. But every once in a while, late at night, half asleep, I would hear it. A faint little sound, like giggling. Not loud, not close, just there. Like something amused was tucked into the dark corner of the room, enjoying itself. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe it was the house settling. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe Mara was right. And what if they don't like being reminded? Okay, so I need to say this out loud to someone because I feel like if I keep it in my head, it just gets bigger and louder. I'm pretty sure my house is haunted. And I know how that sounds. I really do. I'm not someone who wants to believe that. For a long time, I kept telling myself it was coincidence, or me being tired, or the dog reacting to a random noise. Anything but that. But too many things have happened now. Too many very specific things. So, quick backstory. There's a small, old graveyard behind our house. Not like a big cemetery, more like a tucked-away family plot. You can see a few stones through the brush if you know where to look. It's always been there, and it's always made the backyard feel different. Not evil, just heavy sometimes. And recently, I'm embarrassed to admit this, I'd been messing around with tarot cards. Just casually. I wasn't trying to summon anything or open portals or whatever people say online. I thought it was harmless, a hobby, a way to reflect. But now I'm sitting here thinking, what if that mattered? Because a few nights ago, my partner, Miles, and I were outside late, just standing there talking. And I made this stupid joke. I said something like, I want to see what your mom saw that night. His mom, my mother-in-law, has told this story forever. Like, over 20 years ago, she swears she saw a ghost on the driveway. Not even a full person, which somehow makes it worse. She said it looked like a man in an old uniform, like from the Civil War era, but only the top half. Like shoulders and head, just moving. I joked about it. I laughed. I really wish I hadn't. Because after that, things started happening. Small at first, but so weirdly consistent. There's this one reusable water bottle we keep in the kitchen. Same spot, same counter. And it started falling over by itself. Like, not sliding, not tipping like it was unsteady. It would just clunk to the floor. It happened 3 separate times in one day. The same bottle, the same counter. Then the next day, Miles's mom came by while we were out. Later, she told us she heard a knock at the front door, like an actual knock. She paused her phone call, muted the TV, walked right up, opened the door. No one. And the only other person on the property was a worker we had outside, way out back doing yard stuff. She went around and asked him if he'd knocked. He swore he didn't, and he also said he hadn't seen anyone come up the driveway. Okay, weird. But still, maybe someone knocked and walked away fast. Maybe. Except the next day, the water bottle fell again. Same one, same spot. And then yesterday morning, the doorbell rang. Not a knock, the actual doorbell. My dog exploded barking like someone was right there. And we've had contractors at the house, so I'm thinking, oh, they need something. I get up, I'm walking to the door, and I glance at the camera feed. Nobody is there. Like, nobody even close. No shadow. No person stepping away. Nothing. I still opened the door because, I don't know. Part of me didn't want to admit what my brain was already whispering. One of the contractors was up on a ladder near the side of the house, so I called out, "Did you ring the bell? Do you need anything?" He looked genuinely confused and said, "No, I didn't touch it." I remember closing the door and standing there in that little quiet after, trying to act normal, trying to be the kind of person who shrugs and says, must be a glitch. But I didn't feel normal. Then early this morning, like 1:30 a.m., it got worse. I woke up because my dog was barking, growling, and doing that deep huffing thing he only does when he thinks a stranger is inside. And the creepy part? He wasn't running to the living room like he usually does when he hears something outside. He stayed in the bedroom, planted, staring at our door. The door was cracked open just a little, and he was staring directly at that gap like he could see something I couldn't. I sat up, heart already racing, trying to whisper his name and calm him down. He stopped barking, but he didn't relax. He just kept huffing, like warning breaths, pointed straight at the doorway. And then my laundry bin, right beside the door, shifted and toppled. Not like I bumped it, not like the dog hit it. It just fell, and the bag of clothes inside spilled out. I froze. I told myself, okay, maybe it was overstuffed, maybe it was leaning, maybe... And then it happened again. The clothes slid out like something had tugged the bag. And then again, 3 times, like it wanted me to notice, like it was saying, hey, pay attention. At that point, my whole body just went cold. I did the most childish thing. I laid back down and pulled the blanket over my head, like that would protect me from whatever was standing on the other side of the door. And then, a second later, I heard the door creak. Just a tiny sound, like it moved a fraction of an inch. I yanked the blanket down, expecting to see my dog leaving the room or pushing it open. But he was right next to the bed, still staring, still tense. Miles is a heavy sleeper, but he half woke up from all of it. And this is the part that almost makes me cry, because it was so instinctive. He didn't even fully open his eyes. He just said, firm, like he was talking to a real person, "Go away. You're not welcome here." And then he rolled over and fell back asleep like that was the end of it. I was still sitting there, wide awake, shaking, because I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't just a noise. It wasn't just my imagination. Something was interacting with the space. I pulled my dog onto the bed with me, held him close, and eventually, somehow, everything went quiet again. But it doesn't feel over. That's what scares me the most. It's only been a handful of days, and it feels like it's escalating. And the thing is, this isn't even the first time we've had weird stuff happen here. I've heard footsteps when no one was walking. I've seen the TV shut off on its own. Our cameras have blinked off like they lost power, even though nothing else did. Once, I swear I heard what sounded like a little gathering outside, like instrumental music and muffled voices, like a party just beyond the fence. And then it stopped the second I went to check. We've left the house and come back to the dryer still running, twice, like it restarted itself. I used to file those away as creepy stories, things you tell friends and laugh about afterward. But now I'm not laughing. Now I'm sitting here thinking about that graveyard in the back, and the tarot cards I haven't touched since, and the stupid joke I made under the night sky. Like I tossed a pebble into a dark well, and only now I'm hearing something climb its way up. And I don't know what the next step is. Hey, so I've been lurking in a couple paranormal spaces for a long time, just reading people's stories, trying to make sense of what they experienced. And I kept telling myself, one day I'll share mine. This is that day. This happened about 6 years ago. I was living in this townhouse with a bunch of roommates, all guys, all of us working, doing the usual routine. Nothing about the place felt creepy. It was just a normal, slightly cramped house where the kitchen was always busy and everyone's stuff had a spot. One afternoon, I'm at work, mid-shift, and my phone rings. It's one of my roommates. Let's call him Samir. He sounds weirdly serious, like he's trying not to sound dramatic. He goes, "Hey, did you leave a phone in your kitchen cupboard?" And I'm like, "No, I've got one phone. It's literally in my hand." There's this, and then he says, "I'm only asking because I keep hearing a woman laughing, like from inside your cupboard." I laughed it off at first, like, yeah, okay, sure, maybe he's messing with me. I tell him it's definitely not me, and I go back to work. But when I get home later, he asks me again, same exact question, same exact tone. And now I'm not laughing anymore because he looks unsettled, like he's been waiting for me to come back so he doesn't have to be alone with it. So I'm thinking, all right, let's solve this. Maybe someone's playing a prank. Maybe there's a toy in there. Maybe a video got left running on somebody's device. Something. I'm in the kitchen making dinner, chopping onions, heating up a pan, just trying to act normal. And then it happens. This clear, bright female laugh. Not a creak, not a pipe groan, not something vague you can interpret. It's a laugh like someone's standing right there, amused, like she heard a joke and couldn't hold it in. My whole body went cold. I walked straight to the cupboard that was basically my cupboard, where I kept snacks and random groceries, and I swing it open so fast I nearly knocked the door off the hinge. Nothing. Just food, boxes, rice, a couple cans, normal stuff. I pull everything out. I check behind things, under things, like I'm going to find a tiny speaker taped to the back wall or a phone wedged somewhere. I even feel around the hinges, because at that point my brain is desperate to land on anything that makes sense. And a few minutes later, that same laugh again. Same tone, same presence. And I'm not going to lie to you, I got scared. Like the kind of scared where you start trying to control your breathing so nobody else notices you're rattled. At first, I tried to explain it away. I told myself maybe it was the plumbing, maybe the water pressure was doing something weird, maybe sound was carrying through the walls from a neighbor. I clung to every logical possibility I could grab. But the more it happened, the less my brain could wiggle out of what my ears were clearly hearing. It sounded like a woman, young, maybe 20s or early 30s, laughing right inside that cupboard. Now, I'm Muslim, so the way I framed it wasn't a ghost or someone who died here. In our belief, people don't come back to wander around places after they pass away. The soul moves on into the unseen, into barzakh, and there isn't just casual back and forth communication. Not like that. But we do believe in jinn, and we're taught they can imitate voices, mimic people, take different forms. Basically, they can mess with your senses if they want to. So after a while, I stopped trying to force a scientific explanation onto something that felt personal, like it was aimed at us, like it was performing. So that's what we did. We didn't invite it. We didn't talk to it. We didn't challenge it. We just tried to go on with our lives. And here's the strange part. It didn't last long. Maybe a day. Maybe one night and a little into the next day. Short enough that it almost felt like it was just stopping by to see if it could get a reaction. At one point, once the initial fear wore off a little, we actually turned it into this dumb roommate moment. You know how guys can be when they're trying to act brave? We didn't tell one of the roommates what was going on. We sent him into the kitchen like, "Hey, can you grab something from the cupboard real quick?" He walks in, opens it, and right on cue, that laugh hits. He bolts. Like full sprint out of the kitchen, eyes wide, swearing under his breath, and the rest of us just lose it. We're laughing so hard we can barely stand, partly because it was funny, and partly because laughing felt like the only way to keep the fear from winning. And after that, it stopped. Like completely. No more laughter. No more weird moments. The house went back to being just a house. Except, there was one other thing. Months later, I had a sleep paralysis episode, my first real one. I woke up and I was fully aware, fully conscious, but my body wouldn't move. Not my arms, not my legs, nothing. Even my breathing felt heavy, like it didn't belong to me. And the whole time, all I could think was, recite Ayat al-Kursi, just recite it. That's something we're taught early on, something protective, something that anchors you when you feel exposed to anything unseen. But I couldn't. My mind was screaming the words, but my tongue wouldn't cooperate. It was like my mouth wasn't mine. I fought so hard to get even the first sound out, and it felt like trying to lift a mountain with one finger. It only lasted a few seconds, but in the moment it felt longer, because you measure time differently when you're trapped in your own body. And then, my tongue finally moved. Just enough. The moment I was able to form the words, the paralysis snapped like a rubber band. I could move again. I sat up, heart racing, just staring into the dark, trying to convince myself I was safe. I can't prove that sleep paralysis was connected to the cupboard thing. I'm not even claiming it is. But I'll tell you this. After you've heard a woman laugh from inside a cupboard that contains nothing but groceries, you don't forget that feeling. And you don't dismiss the unseen quite as easily ever again. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you this the way I remember it, because even talking about it makes my chest feel tight. I'm sitting here typing, but in my head, I'm right back there, and I hate that I can still feel it. This happened a couple years back, maybe closer to 2 than 3. I've lived my whole life in southern West Virginia, where the mountains and woods aren't a backdrop, they're just everything. And at night, it's a kind of dark that isn't peaceful. It's thick, like the world can swallow you if you step too far off the path. That night, I had a buddy over. His name was Matt. We were doing what we always did, watching fights, half paying attention, messing around on the console, talking about nothing important. Eventually, we got restless, and we decided to walk down this nearby trail to smoke. Nothing crazy, just a little trail we'd been on before. It's not long, but it's hemmed in by woods so dense you can barely see more than a few feet past the edges, especially at night. It was late, like past 1 in the morning late. We walked maybe 25 minutes in and stopped around the midpoint. We stepped off to the side just enough to feel hidden, packed the joint, and stood there on the trail talking in low voices like we were the only 2 people left on Earth. And the woods were busy. You know how the forest usually has little sounds, bugs, a branch settling, a distant rustle? This was different. It felt like everything was moving at once. Too much movement for that hour. Too many little snaps and scrapes and scurries. It wasn't loud exactly, just active. Like the trees were full of eyes and bodies that shouldn't have been awake. Matt even made a comment, something like, "Why is it so alive tonight?" And I remember laughing it off, but it didn't feel funny. We finished up and started walking again, heading back the way we came. And that's when it happened. Almost immediately, like someone flipped a switch, the woods went silent. Not quieter, not calmer, dead silent. No insects, no leaves, no distant movement. It was like the whole forest held its breath at the exact same time. And right inside that silence, there was a voice. It's hard to explain without sounding ridiculous, but I swear to you, this is exactly what it felt like. It sounded humanoid, but wrong, like an imitation, like something trying on a human voice and not getting the shape right. It had this shaky, uncertain tone, almost sing-songy, but not in a normal way. The closest thing I can compare it to is an old toy, like one of those cheap talking dolls from years ago, where the speaker crackles and the words come out warped and robotic. Not quite a whisper, not quite speaking, just repeating itself over and over. Both of us froze for half a second, and then we didn't even talk about it. We just ran. We sprinted back down the trail as hard as we could. I was expecting the sound to fall behind us, or at least change, get fainter, get louder, shift around. But it didn't. That's the part that still makes my skin crawl. No matter how hard we ran, that voice stayed the same volume, like it was keeping pace without moving, not getting closer, not getting farther, just locked onto us, like it was attached, like it was coming from the air right behind our ears. I remember thinking, in this really clear, cold way, we are in danger. Not we're spooked, not This is creepy. Like genuine, real danger. The kind you only feel a few times in your life if you're unlucky. And we started moving fast away from the entrance. Like, don't stop, just go. Maybe 5 minutes after we cleared the trail, we heard it. A scream. Not an animal, not even close. I know what the wildlife sounds like around here. I've heard bobcats, foxes, all of it. This wasn't that. This was human-shaped, but stripped of anything human. It sounded violent. It sounded murderous, like pure rage with lungs behind it. It came from directly behind us, back toward the trees, and it was so loud and so nasty that it felt like it hit my spine. Birds exploded out of the woods like something had kicked a hornet's nest in the sky. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might actually throw up. And in that moment, standing there in the dark with my heart trying to rip out of my chest, all I could think was, whatever made that sound wanted us to know it was there. So, let me tell you about Marin. A few years back, I was dating her, and she had this calm, steady way of saying things that made you pause. Marin would tell me, without drama, without trying to impress anyone, that she could sense things most people couldn't. Feelings in rooms, shifts in the air, sometimes even presences. I mostly believed her. I mean, I wanted to. But if I'm being honest, a part of me kept waiting for something undeniable to happen. Something I could point to and say, okay, yeah, that's real. She had this emerald. Not a huge one, not flashy, but it had this deep green glow that almost looked alive in the right light. She'd wear it on a thin chain sometimes, close to her chest. And I remember noticing it early on, like really noticing it, because the first time we got intimate, she was wearing it. Later, I caught myself wondering if that mattered. Like, maybe the stone wasn't just jewelry to her. Maybe it was a kind of anchor. And if I got close enough to her, maybe I got pulled into whatever that anchor was tied to. Anyway, about 6 weeks into dating, she had to travel for a work conference across the country. Quick trip in and out. She took the emerald with her, of course, but on the flight back, the airline lost one of her bags. And that bag had the emerald inside. If it were me, I would have been livid. I would have been on hold with customer service until my phone melted. But Marin, she barely reacted. She was disappointed, sure, but not angry. She just sat there, kind of quiet, then shrugged like she was accepting a fact the rest of us didn't have access to. "It'll come back," she said, like she wasn't hoping, like she knew. At the time, I thought she meant the airline would track down the suitcase eventually. Lost luggage turns up. It happens. So I didn't argue, but I also didn't read anything mystical into it. Weeks passed, then more weeks. No bag, no emerald. And then one Saturday, randomly, we decided to go hiking. There's this small mountain near our town that neither of us had been to. Not one of those dramatic, rocky climbs. More like a gentle trail, the kind where you can actually talk while you walk. I'd seen it on an app and said, "Let's do it." And Marin smiled like she was already saying yes before I finished the sentence. We took our time going up. The air was clear, the trail was quiet. When we finally reached the top, there was a tall radio tower and one of those big metal water tanks. Nothing scenic in a postcard way, but still, peaceful. You could see the trees rolling out in every direction, and the whole place had that stillness that makes you lower your voice without thinking. We sat down to eat lunch. A couple hikers passed us, 2, maybe 3, and then it was just empty. No footsteps, no chatter. Just us and the wind that barely existed, drifting now and then like it couldn't commit. We were talking and laughing, leaning into each other, and eventually we started kissing. Nothing wild, just that slow, comfortable kind of affection you fall into when you feel safe with someone. And then the air changed. I don't know how else to say it. One second everything was calm, and the next it was like the mountain took one huge breath and exhaled right in our faces. The wind came out of nowhere, hard, loud, whipping so strong it made that long whoosh sound, like it was moving through a tunnel. It startled me, but Marin, she went pale. "We have to go," she said, voice cracking. "Not because it's bad, it's so sad up here. Something's sad." That's what she said. Something's sad. So I didn't argue. I started packing up our food, folding things quickly, trying to steady the moment. We were both cleaning up, making sure we left no trash behind, when I spotted something in the dirt near my shoe. A flash of green. At first I thought it was a bottle shard or a piece of plastic catching light, but when I brushed the dirt aside, my stomach dropped a little. It was a necklace. A thin chain, tarnished in spots, and at the center, that deep green emerald. Marin froze when she saw it, like her brain needed a second to accept what her eyes were telling her. Then she let out this breath, half laugh, half sob, and she grabbed it with both hands like it might disappear if she didn't hold on tight enough. And suddenly she wasn't shaking anymore. She was glowing, smiling through tears, laughing like a kid who just got something back that they'd already decided was gone forever. I kept looking around, almost expecting someone to pop out and yell, "Gotcha!" But there was nobody. Just that wind, fading as quickly as it arrived, leaving behind this heavy quiet. On the walk back down, she told me something she hadn't said before. The emerald had been her grandfather's gift, given to her when she was little. She said it wasn't just sentimental. It was him. Like he'd poured something of himself into it, some promise of protection and return. She also told me she'd lost it once before, years ago, when she was a kid. It had slipped off near a river, one with a fast current. She'd cried and told her grandfather, and he'd looked at her and said very calmly, "It'll come back." And somehow, it did. A few weeks later, he handed it back to her like it was the most normal thing in the world. So when the airline lost her bag, she didn't panic. She'd already lived through the emerald coming back once. She trusted the pattern. Now, I'll be honest with you. My brain immediately tried to build a neat little explanation. Like, maybe she never lost it on the trip. Maybe it was in her pocket the whole time and she staged the whole thing. Maybe she dropped it when I wasn't looking. Maybe one of those hikers lost it and the timing was just weird. I tried to convince myself of all kinds of logical versions. But here's the problem. It wasn't just that one moment. There were other things with Marin. Little unexplainable turns, strange coincidences, moments where she'd say something before it happened. Enough that, even now, I can't fully laugh it off. And I don't know. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, part mystery, part human storytelling. Or maybe that emerald really does have a way of returning, like it's tied to her life in a way that doesn't care what I believe. All I know is this. That day on that mountain, the wind came like a message. And when it passed, the emerald was there, waiting in the dirt like it had always belonged exactly where we were sitting. I'm going to tell you about something that still makes my stomach drop when I think about it, because I know what I heard. There's just no way I imagined it. So a few years back, maybe 3, give or take, my sister Maris and I were living together in this little townhouse in a quiet suburban town. The kind of place where people wave even if they don't know your name, and where the edge of town turns into nothing but woods and open fields. At night it got weirdly still, like the dark had weight to it. Anyway, It was a Friday, late afternoon, and Maris and I had been fighting over something so small it's almost embarrassing to admit. One of those petty arguments that somehow grows teeth because you've been around each other too much. We worked at the same place back then too, so there was no cool off and take space. It was just all day, every day, the same person, the same tension. We were sniping over text all afternoon. Then it turned into calls, and by the time the workday ended, I was shaking with anger, like I could feel it buzzing under my skin. Maris left the office first. I stayed a little longer, trying to breathe through it, trying to not explode. Part of me wanted to just go to my mom's house instead. She lived close. But I told myself I needed to be alone. I needed quiet. So I drove back to the townhouse, gripping the steering wheel too hard, dreading the moment I'd walk in and it would start all over again. When I pulled up, the street was calm, too calm. I remember the air looking sort of dim and flat, like the evening hadn't decided if it wanted to be night yet. I walked to the front door, took a breath like I was bracing for impact, and stepped inside. The downstairs was quiet. I headed toward the kitchen, and I remember feeling this wave of relief because, thankfully, Maris wasn't down there. Her bedroom was upstairs, right above the kitchen, and you could hear everything through that ceiling. And that's when I heard her voice, clear as day. She was on the phone, and she was talking about me. Not just venting either. I mean, she was tearing me apart, calling me names, talking about my character like I was the worst person she'd ever met, saying these nasty, cruel things that didn't even sound like normal anger. It sounded like someone trying to hurt me. I stood there in the kitchen, frozen, staring at the counter like it could explain what I was hearing. And something in me just broke. I pulled out my phone and called my mom because I needed someone to ground me before I did something I couldn't take back. I told her, "Mom, it's bad. It's getting ugly. I don't know what to do." But while I'm talking to my mom, the voice upstairs suddenly shifts, like it realized I was home. And then it starts screaming. Not muffled, not distant, piercing, sharp. The kind of screaming that makes your heart jump like you've been slapped. "Get the F out!" And then worse, way worse. It was saying disgusting things, violent, hateful stuff I don't even like repeating. But the point is, it sounded exactly like Maris. Same tone, same rhythm, the same way she dragged certain words. Her voice has this distinct bite when she's furious, and that bite was cutting through the ceiling like it wasn't even there. I snapped right back. I started yelling up at the ceiling, screaming until my throat hurt, and my mom is on the phone hearing all of it, hearing me go absolutely feral with rage. Then my mom suddenly goes quiet. Not like she got distracted, like she got serious. And in this low, careful voice, she says, "Honey, stop." So I stop. I'm breathing hard, shaking, still staring upward like I'm about to see someone come through the ceiling. And my mom says, slowly, like she's choosing every word, "Maris is right next to me. She's here, at my house, right now." I didn't understand at first. My brain couldn't make the shape of it. And then my mom says, "Who are you yelling at?" I swear to you, everything in me went cold. Because I had been hearing her. I had been fighting with her. I had been responding to her voice with my own voice. And I wasn't guessing, I knew it was her. But she wasn't there. And that's the moment the fear hit, the real fear. The kind that doesn't come with adrenaline, just this sick, sinking certainty that something is wrong in a way you can't fix by turning on a light. Later, when I tried to make sense of it, I kept landing on the same thought. Whatever was upstairs didn't want a conversation. It wanted a reaction. It wanted anger. It wanted chaos. It wanted me loud and hurt and losing control. And ever since then, I've never forgotten what that felt like. Standing in my own kitchen, listening to a voice I trusted, knowing in my bones it was real, and realizing it couldn't have been. So, I don't know what you believe. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm just telling you what happened. And I'm telling you this. If something ever tries to pull you into rage that fast, if it feels like it's feeding on the worst parts of you, step back, breathe, reach for something steady. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see. It's what knows exactly how to sound like someone you love. So, I grew up in this really old house, like the kind that was built before 1900, with crooked little quirks you only notice once you've lived there long enough. When I was a kid, my little brother Eli and I had our own bedrooms at first, but when he was about 3 or 4, he started having nightmares all the time. Real, panicky, shaking awake kind of nightmares. So my parents moved him into my room. And here's the thing. The entire time we shared that room, we always slept with a fan running. Not just for air. It sounds weird saying it out loud, but when I was younger, the fan made the room feel protected. Like it pushed something back. Like if the room ever got too quiet, something uncomfortable could creep in. Years later, after we'd moved out of that room and weren't sharing anymore, Eli told me something that made my stomach drop a little. He said he'd felt it too as a kid. He said the fan wasn't just noise. He felt like it kept something bad away. Like it kept spirits from getting close. I didn't even know what to say to that, because I'd never told him my reason. Then, right before my junior year of college, we moved again, into another house that was also built before 1900. This one had actually been my dad's childhood home. My grandma moved down the road into a smaller place and let us move into her old house, the one with the history and the weight to it. It even used to have servants' quarters back when it was first built, which tells you how old and layered that place really was. And in that house, there were 2 spots where I consistently felt something. The first spot was on the staircase. There's a landing where the stairs make this sharp turn, almost like the house folds back on itself. Every time I hit that turn, I'd feel uneasy. Not like I was scared of falling, more like something was right there on the other side of the wall, watching from the living room corner. Just a steady pressure, like being stared at. And there were a couple details about that exact area that always stuck with me. My grandma used to keep these old dolls on a shelf near there. Porcelain faces, glassy eyes, the whole thing. My cousin used to say those dolls gave him the creeps, like he hated even looking at them. And also, some of my earliest memories of my great-grandfather are from that same corner. During family gatherings, he would sit right there, kind of quiet, just observing. He was a gentle presence, but the fact that he was tied to that spot made it feel even more charged somehow. The second place was the kitchen at night. If I sat at the island when the house was dark, just me, maybe a little light over the stove, everything else quiet, I'd feel like something was watching me from the dining room. It wasn't far, maybe 10 or 12 feet away, but it felt like a gaze I couldn't shake. Sometimes it even felt like it wasn't inside at all, like it was outside one of the windows, just beyond the glass. Not always, but enough times that I started timing how long I'd sit there before I'd get up and turn on another light, just to break the feeling. And the only thing I could ever connect it to was my great-grandfather again. In his last several years, he was in his 90s by then and needed help walking. He would sit for hours in what is now the dining room, almost the whole day. Same area, same stillness, same sense of someone being there even when they're not. My cousin, the same one who hated the dolls, told me later that he and my grandma both had experiences in that house too. My grandma's experience was different, but somehow worse in its own way. She told him she saw glowing eyes at the bottom of the stairs that led down to the basement. Not like a reflection, not like an animal. She described them as red, just there, staring up at her from the dark. After that, my cousin said she had the house blessed. And apparently, there were older relatives of ours who were priests, people who, according to family stories, had dealt with supernatural situations before. I don't know how much of that is tradition, how much is truth, but it's something I grew up hearing in bits and pieces. And that brings me to why this has been on my mind again. Because 2 nights ago, something happened that I can't just shrug off. I'm living alone right now in a military building built around the mid-1940s. No roommate, just me. It was about 2 a.m. I was awake and looked over toward the desk across the room, and I saw this soft green glow on top of it, like the color you'd see on an alarm clock display. Not bright like a flashlight, but unmistakable, a source of light. And the thing is, there wasn't anything on the desk where the light was. No device, no charger, nothing with an indicator. I stared at it long enough to be sure I wasn't half dreaming, then looked away and back, and it was still there. This steady green glow sitting in empty space like it belonged. Then, about 30 minutes later, I heard a sound from the other bed, like someone rolling over under blankets, the soft shift, the fabric drag, that very human turning in sleep noise. But the other bed didn't have bedding on it. It only had my uniform laid out, and it didn't move. So I just sat there, frozen in that kind of silence where your brain starts begging you to explain it. Air vent, settling building, whatever, anything. But the sound was so specific, so familiar. And since then, I've had this other thing happening too. When I walk to the bathroom at night, I sometimes feel like something is behind me, keeping pace. Not footsteps I can hear, just that instinct, that prickling pressure between your shoulder blades like you're being followed. There are other people in the building, sure, but when I feel it, the hallway is empty. No one else in the passageway. No doors opening, no voices. Nothing. And I hate admitting this, but it's the same feeling I used to push away with a fan when I was a kid. The same don't let it get too quiet feeling. The same sense that something is present, even when you're completely alone. So I think my latest ghost encounter might have officially clocked in for work with me. I'm one of those people who's always been a little too sensitive to that kind of thing. I've had a handful of experiences over the years, and honestly, even when nothing felt truly evil, it was still scary. Like, your body goes into alarm mode anyway, you know? But this one feels different. I started a new job recently, and right away someone mentioned, almost like a fun little fact, "Oh, we barely ever use the aircon here. The building's just always cold." Which sounds normal until you remember I live in a place where heat is basically a lifestyle. So yeah, a naturally chilly building already felt a bit strange. At first, nothing seemed too weird, except for this one thing that kept happening. People would get locked out of rooms even though they swore they hadn't locked the door. Like, they'd step out for a second, come back, and the knob wouldn't turn. It happened to a few coworkers, and then it happened to me once too. I brushed it off as old doors, old locks, whatever. Then one day, I was alone in the building for a while, and I heard what sounded like someone gently moving around in the kitchen. Not loud, not dramatic, just that soft, someone's in there kind of sound. Pots shifting. A cupboard, maybe. The casual noise of a person doing small things. But here's the thing. There are only 2 ways into the building. One entrance was properly locked, and the other one? If anyone came in through it, I would have heard it. and they would have had to walk past me. So I go check the kitchen, half expecting to catch someone sneaking a snack or something, and there's nobody. Not a single person, no movement, just that cold, quiet air. It was odd. Not terrifying, just odd. Then today, my boss was in my office chatting with me, and we both heard these noises coming from the front room. It sounded like knocking, but not on the door, more like someone tapping something against a surface, like knuckles or maybe an object, and it was definitely inside the building. My boss actually got up and went to look, properly investigated it, walked around, checked the front area, and found nothing. No one. Later on, the aircon was switched on, and none of us had done it. There were only 3 of us working that day. No one claimed it, and it wasn't on earlier. It was just on. Like someone decided, yeah, we're doing this now. And then it clicked for me, like within the last day, what building I'm actually in. I'm gonna call it Albie's building, because I've heard people talk about it before. Shopkeepers who used to work in this building complained about a ghost. Like, genuinely complained. Not in a ha-ha spooky way, in a this place has something going on way. And last night, I had this dream that I was getting phone calls from a little boy. Not a normal dream either. It felt weirdly specific, like I woke up with that lingering feeling of, that wasn't just random. Also, I should tell you about the room I usually work in. There's this one office that has the thickest atmosphere I've ever felt. Like the air has weight. Oppressive, heavy, almost pressurized. It's hard to focus in there, like your brain gets foggy the longer you sit. I can't explain it without sounding dramatic, but it feels like the room is crowded, even when it's empty. Here's what's strange though. I don't feel scared in the building. Even though the whole building is chilly, I still like having the aircon on. The other day, I turned it on, and another woman came by and turned it off. I was sitting there feeling all stuffy and annoyed, thinking, okay, great. So when the aircon turned itself on later, without any of us doing it, I couldn't help thinking, that cheeky little ghost did that for me. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just old building quirks, faulty locks, weird acoustics, touchy aircon controls. But if it is something, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it wants to scare anyone. It just feels like it wants to be noticed. So this goes back to about 9 years ago now. I've told bits and pieces of this story to a few people over time, but I've never really sat down and shared it start to finish. And I should probably say up front, strange stuff has followed me most of my life. I don't go looking for it. It just finds me. But this house was different. I was living in a small, low-income town where rentals almost never come up. The kind of place where, if you find something that isn't falling apart, you grab it and don't ask too many questions. At the time, I was living with my mom, my brother, my sister, and my nephew. He was still little then. We finally found a private rental through this sweet older couple, and honestly, the house looked like a miracle. It was on the good end of a street that had a rough reputation, and it was maybe 20-ish years old, still modern, roomy, and for the first time in my life, it had air conditioning. I remember walking in and thinking, okay, we've made it. This is fancy living. Now, this place had a weird layout. It almost felt like it had 2 backs instead of a front. On one side, it faced cane fields and the beginning stretch of a highway. That side had a fenced yard and a covered patio. The other side backed onto a quiet street with a little park. Peaceful, actually. And on that quiet side, there was this enclosed outdoor area that wrapped around, plus another locked-off little section where the landlords kept a spa we weren't allowed to use. Off that whole area was a big, sort of nice double garage. And inside the garage was a door into a small tool shed. And inside that, there was this tiny room. It wasn't even useful, really, just old tools and junk. But the second you stepped near it, the air felt wrong, like the room didn't want you in there. I never had a reason to go inside, and I avoided it the way you avoid a dark hallway in a horror movie. You know when your body says no before your brain catches up? It was like that. Not long after we moved in, I started feeling watched. Not by an adult, by a young girl. I never saw her clearly. It was more like a presence, like the sense of a small person standing just out of view, quietly paying attention. And it always felt strongest near the spa and garage area, like she was tied to that part of the house. I'd be hanging laundry or walking through that outdoor space, and I'd get that prickly feeling on the back of my neck, like someone was behind me. That was unsettling but manageable. I told myself I was imagining it. Stress, new house, all that. And then something happened in town. A little girl was killed. An awful, senseless case that everyone talked about for weeks. The whole city felt heavier after it. And I swear, it was like the air in our house changed after that. Like something got stirred up. One night I was in my bedroom, just sitting there. Nothing dramatic, just existing. And this little statue I had on a shelf suddenly launched across the room. Not slid, not tipped. It flew, fast, like someone had thrown it with real force. It hit the wall hard enough that I actually yelped. And here's the part that still makes me feel strange. It didn't break. It was delicate. It should have shattered, but it didn't. It just landed there, like the house wanted to prove a point more than it wanted to destroy anything. After that, I started paying closer attention. I opened the gate, and as I stepped in, I could see through the windows that every light in the house was on. Every room. Bright. And I remember thinking, oh, Mom and my brother are up again. They were night owls back then. Sometimes they'd be watching movies at weird hours. So I walked up to the door, put my hand on the knob, pushed it open, and the house was pitch black. Not dim, not a few lights off, completely dark. Like nobody had been awake for hours. I stood there with the door open, honestly thinking my brain had short-circuited. I walked through the house turning lights on, checking rooms. Everyone, Mom, my brother, my sister, my nephew, was asleep in their beds. Deep asleep. The kind of sleep you don't snap into in 10 seconds. And I just kept thinking, there is no way. There's no way they all turned off every light in the exact split second between me seeing them on and me stepping through the door. After that, I wouldn't go inside alone late at night. If Cal dropped me home after dark, I'd make him wait while I walked in and checked everything. I felt ridiculous, but I felt worse doing it alone. Then came the part I still don't like talking about, because this is when I saw something. Around that time, I started having these very specific dreams, over and over, about a teenage boy. He looked like he was from another era. Think vintage clothes, old school haircut, like something out of the late 70s or early 80s. In the dream, he'd talk at me like he was desperate to be understood. He kept mentioning his mom, and he sounded upset, confused, like he couldn't make sense of what had happened. And every time, he'd show me the same things: an older sedan, a road near the cane fields, and this part makes my stomach turn: a gravestone. It got so persistent that I actually asked a neighbor who'd lived in the area forever if there'd ever been a teen boy killed in a car crash near that stretch of road. She frowned and said she couldn't remember anything like that. No big story, no local tragedy that matched, so I tried to let it go. But then one morning, I woke up around 3:40 a.m. The room was that half-dark, half-light stage right before dawn. I blinked a few times, and I saw what looked like a tall, thin male figure standing in my room. My first thought, honestly, was my brother. Like he'd come in for something and didn't want to wake me. So, half asleep and irritated, I said, "What are you doing? What are you looking for?" The figure turned toward me, and the moment it turned, I knew it wasn't my brother. There were no features, no face, no clothes, just a human-shaped darkness, like the light couldn't land on it properly. A shadow that was too solid. It moved toward the doorway, and I sat frozen. And right before it disappeared out into the hall, it leaned back and peeked around the door frame at me, like it was checking whether I was still watching. Then it left, toward the lounge room, the opposite direction from my brother's room. The second I could move, I got up and went straight to my brother's door. He was asleep, fully asleep, not pretending, not stirring, nothing. I didn't sleep properly after that, not in that house. Eventually, the owner sold the place and we had to move, and I thought, okay, done, over. I'm not taking anything with me. But then, the weirdest part happened after we left. I remember feeling my stomach drop, but I told myself I was being dramatic. I filed it away in my mind and moved on. A while later, I was dating someone else. His name was Cameron, and one afternoon we were driving near the cane fields, not far from where that house had been. Out of nowhere, at the exact same time, we both said something like, "Do you feel that?" It was like driving into a pocket of bad air. Heavy. Wrong. We pulled over for a minute, and Cameron went, "I don't want to be here. We need to go." And I agreed immediately, no hesitation. Later, he told me something that made the hair rise on my arms. He'd been looking for a share house at one point, and he said he walked into this place that felt so bad he couldn't stand in it, like the walls were pushing him out. When he described it, layout, outdoor area, garage, I went quiet, because he was describing that house, the one I'd lived in, and I had never told him, not a single detail. That's when I went back to the archives properly. I went to the library and pulled microfilm, hunting the original story. And there it was. The murder-suicide had happened 2 houses down from where we lived. According to the report, the mother was believed to have harmed the children, put them in the car, and driven toward the cane fields where it ended. And the photo in the article showed the car. It was the same kind of car from my dreams, the same shape, the same era, the same unmistakable silhouette. And the location, where it was found, was exactly in the direction the boy in my dreams kept pointing toward. And the little girl I always felt near the garage and spa area, that lined up too. The direction their home would have been from ours, just down the street. I sat there staring at the grainy print, feeling like someone had finally pulled back a curtain. I don't know if those kids ever set foot in the house we rented. Maybe they were friends with previous owners. Maybe they played there once. Or maybe, in whatever reality exists beyond ours, 2 doors down isn't a big distance at all. After I found out, I drove past the area one last time. I didn't make a scene. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I just sat in my car and quietly said I was sorry. Sorry for what happened to them. Sorry they weren't safe. Sorry they were still lingering around places that didn't feel like home. And I kept thinking about how the activity in the house seemed to spike after the modern-day tragedy in town. Like hearing about another child being hurt stirred something in them. Like it reminded them of themselves. Even now, I notice that house seems to change hands often. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe people feel what I felt and don't stay long. All I know is I've lived in a lot of places, and I've had my share of strange experiences. But that house, with its two backs, its locked spa, that creepy little tool room, and the feeling of a young girl watching from the edge of your vision, that one stayed with me. Hey everyone, welcome to the Paranormal M channel. Thanks so much for your continued support and for tuning in to our daily paranormal stories. I genuinely love doing this. And a huge thank you to everyone who's been sending in your own experiences. Don't forget to drop a comment below and tell us where you're listening from. Now, without further ado, get cozy under your blankets, pop on your headphones, and let's dive into today's paranormal encounters. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications. So, I've got two stories from growing up that still sit in the back of my mind like a song you can't quite place. I'm not someone who goes looking for paranormal stuff either. I've always been pretty practical about it. But these two moments, they happened in a way that still feels weirdly solid. First, a little setup. I grew up in this really old house, old enough that when my family added on to it, we had to deal with historic paperwork and all that. It wasn't like the place was constantly creepy. No cold spots, no slamming doors, none of the classic haunted house stuff. Honestly, it mostly just felt like a house that had been around a long time. When I was in second grade, my bedroom was at the end of a hallway. My parents' room was right beside mine, with our doors almost touching at the corner. Down the other end was my little brother's room. He was in preschool then. The bathroom sat between us, kind of like the hallway's midpoint. And for whatever reason, I always slept with my door open. I hated the feeling of a closed door at night. Even as a kid, I couldn't explain it. It just made me anxious. One night, I woke up to the sound of a toilet flushing. Not like a vague noise either, like the full, unmistakable whoosh of it. I rolled over, expecting to see my dad or my mom, or maybe my brother stumbling back to bed half asleep. But instead, this girl stepped out of the bathroom. She was taller than me, wearing this simple white nightgown that hung kind of straight, like something you'd picture in an old movie. She didn't shuffle or creep. She just walked like it was normal, like she belonged there. She came down the hallway toward my room, and then, right before she reached my doorway, she turned to face the wall and stopped. And then she just stood there, breathing. But not normal breathing. It was heavy, deep, rough breathing, like she'd just run a mile, or like every inhale took work, like she was pulling air in and pushing it out with everything she had. I remember lying there watching her, trying to make sense of it, and my brain basically landing on the only explanation it could tolerate. That must be my brother, even though it obviously wasn't. I got out of bed anyway, slowly, like I didn't want to startle her, or whatever she was. I crept toward her and waited for her to react, turn her head, glance at me, anything. But she didn't. Just kept staring at the wall, breathing like that. I kept inching closer until I was right there, close enough that if I leaned forward, my forehead would almost touch her shoulder. And I remember staring at her hair, the fabric of the nightgown, the way her posture was stiff but not tense, and that breathing filling the whole hallway. Then I lifted my hand. I watched my fingers move toward her, like I was doing it in slow motion, like I was proving to myself she was real. And right before I touched her, I panicked. Not a screaming panic, more like my body suddenly decided, nope, absolutely not. I yanked my hand back and bolted into my parents' room. I woke my mom up in this frantic whisper, like, "Why is he standing in the hallway? Why is he out there?" And my mom, still half asleep, just went, "What are you talking about?" Because my little brother was right there, in their bed, sound asleep. My mom got up and searched the house, bathroom, hallway, closets, kitchen, the whole thing, like a parent going through the motions even when they're pretty sure it'll be nothing. But it was nothing. And even now, she doesn't have an explanation. What messes with me about that one is how clear it is. I wasn't a toddler. I was old enough to know what dreaming feels like. And this didn't feel like a dream. It felt like I woke up, heard the flush, saw someone step out, and then stood 3 feet away from them. I didn't see through her. She wasn't glowing or floating or anything. She looked like a regular person. And the strangest part is, I wasn't even terrified afterward. It was more like my brain filed it under, "That happened," and then just kept going. Okay, the second story is different. Less hallway ghost and more, "What the heck is this?" A few years later, around 5th grade, I got my first little music player, one of those early iPod-style ones, and I kept it charging next to my bed at night. I was obsessed with it. Music, games, photos, everything. One day I was showing my cousin Mariah some pictures on it, just scrolling through like normal, and I noticed 2 photos I did not remember taking. The first one was time-stamped a little after 5 in the morning. It was super blurry, basically useless, but it looked like it had been taken in my room, like the camera had moved mid-shot. The second one was taken a minute later, and that one was sharp enough to make my stomach drop. It was a photo of me asleep, taken from above, like from a top-down angle, looking straight down at my bed. You could see my face, my blanket pulled up, and both my hands tucked under the covers. I was clearly out cold. But the angle made no sense. It looked like whoever took it had the camera held a few feet above me, high enough that it wasn't just someone leaning over from the side, more like someone standing there with their arms stretched up, or something even higher. I stared at it, and Mariah stared at it, and neither of us knew what to say. It was one of those moments where you're both silent because saying it out loud makes it worse. I remember promising her we wouldn't tell anyone. And then, this part still bugs me, I deleted the photos. I don't know why I deleted them so fast. I think I just wanted it to stop being real. Like if the evidence disappeared, then it could go back to being nothing. Later, I tried to reason it out. The obvious suspects would be my family. But why would my parents use my device to take a picture of me sleeping at 5 in the morning? If they wanted a photo for some reason, which they never did, they had their own phones. And honestly, they weren't the type to do that at all. And my little brother? He was shorter than me by a lot back then. That camera angle would have been hard for him to get. Plus, why would he even do that? He wasn't sneaky like that. He was just a little kid. So I've basically sat on that story for years and never brought it up again. It feels strange to tell people as an adult, like they'll either laugh or immediately assume I'm exaggerating. But yeah, those are the two. And the funny thing is, I still live in that same house. I'm literally telling you this from the same bedroom. And no, I don't feel unsafe. I don't feel watched. None of my friends have ever come over and said the place feels weird. Day to day, it's just home. But every once in a while, I'll think about that toilet flush, and the breathing in the hallway, and that photo looking down at me like someone was standing above my bed. And I get this little chill, like my brain is reminding me, some things happened that you still can't explain. Hey, so I've got to tell you about this place that's been living in my head ever since I started asking questions. My husband's grandma, let's call her Ms. Inez, grew up in this modest little house sitting on a big stretch of land just off an old highway. Not Old Highway 90 exactly, but one of those long, sun-faded roads that feels like it's seen 1,000 lives. She didn't just visit there, she lived there forever. Decades, nearly her whole adult life. And the only reason she ever left was because the property got sold and the new owner basically forced the whole family out. Like, just ripped the ground out from under them. But what really gets me is that, for as long as I've known my husband, Caleb, he's talked about that house in this very particular way. Not like, oh yeah, my grandma's old place, but like, it left a mark on him. He told me that when he was a kid, all the cousins would sleep together out in the living room. Blankets on the floor, bodies everywhere, that kind of chaotic family sleepover vibe. And he said he'd wake up in the middle of the night and see it. A huge black shape. Not a person exactly, not an animal either. Just this heavy, solid darkness hovering above him. And the creepiest part is how long it would stay. Like it wasn't a flash, it wasn't a nightmare moment. He swears it would hover there for hours, and then it would disappear right before sunrise. Like it had some kind of schedule. And listen, Caleb's not easily rattled. He's the type who stays calm in situations where most people would panic. So when he tells me this is one of the only things that still makes his skin crawl, I take it seriously. So of course, once I heard that, I couldn't leave it alone. I started gently asking around, like, hey, did anything weird ever happen in that house? And his mom, Marisol, gets quiet immediately. And she tells me that when she was about 12, she saw a dark figure shaped like a man standing in the doorway by the kitchen. Just standing there, like it belonged there. And then she tells me something else. Years later, as an adult, she woke up one night and saw something hovering over her bed. Same kind of experience Caleb described. That hovering feeling. That presence just over you. At that point, I'm like, okay, this isn't just one person's imagination. So I keep going. I talk to one aunt, then another, and eventually I sit down with Ms. Inez herself. And she's interesting because she's calm, almost stubbornly calm. She tells me her oldest son, Rafa, once fell asleep on the couch in the living room and woke up with this pressure on his chest, like something was pushing down on him. And she said he told her he saw something, but he never explained what. Wouldn't. Like even saying it out loud would give it more power. Then she looks at me, steady as anything, and she goes, people say they saw things there, but I never did. I was never afraid. And she starts talking about how she kept saints and candles around the house, how she prayed her rosary, how she believes nothing could come near her because of her faith. And you can tell she truly believes that, like it's not a performance, it's her armor. But then, she tells me the part that chilled me more than the hovering thing. She says she used to hear footsteps. And then she drops this detail so casually, like it's just part of the weather. Before her father bought the house, he told her the previous family had left because their son had died there. Now, I don't know if that part is true. It's the kind of story that gets passed down and warped over time. But what everyone describes, the heaviness, the hovering, the watching, none of it feels like a child to me. It feels older, sharper, like a presence that isn't lost, but rooted. After that conversation, I tell the rest of the family what Ms. Inez said, and one of the aunts, Dahlia, immediately goes, "Oh yeah, I used to hear steps on the gravel outside." And she didn't just mean she heard it. She said she could literally see the rocks shifting, like someone was walking toward the house. That visual detail made my stomach drop, because that's not the kind of thing you half imagine. Either you see gravel move or you don't. And Marisol, sitting right next to me, suddenly says, almost like she'd been holding it in for years, "One time, when I was little, I heard someone outside calling my name." and she said she went to the door to see who it was, and there was nobody there. That's the kind of thing that makes you feel sick, you know? Because calling your name is personal. It's intimate. It's bait. Later that same afternoon, Caleb and I drove by the house. There's a different family living there now, and the place has been fixed up. Fresh paint, cleaned up yard, like it's trying to look ordinary. From the road, it almost does. Almost. But the living room window, where all those kids used to sleep, looked darker than it should have. I know that could be a million normal things: tinted glass, heavy curtains, bad lighting. But standing there with all those stories in my head, it felt like the house was still holding something behind that pain. And here's where it gets complicated. Because once I started connecting dots, I couldn't stop. This family, Caleb's family, has lived through so much loss. Strange illnesses, a long stretch of tragedies that seem to pile up. Ms. Inez herself has been bedridden for years with an illness nobody can fully explain. And recently, one relative has been dealing with serious kidney problems. Another became a widow out of nowhere. It's like grief has been orbiting them for a long time. And I keep wondering, does that presence have anything to do with it? Or is it the other way around? Like the house, the land, the old highway. Maybe it's a place where sorrow passes through, and the family just happened to live there long enough to become part of the story. I've also thought about the location. Being so close to an old highway means accidents, history, people passing through. And there's a church nearby too. Close enough you could probably hear bells on a quiet morning. Sometimes places like that feel layered. Like the living and the dead are both leaving fingerprints. I don't know. I really don't. But what I do know is this. Whatever was in that house seemed to keep to the living room, seemed to come in the darkest hours, and seemed to leave right before sunrise. Like daylight was the one thing it respected. So, what do you think? Does that sound like a haunting tied to a death? Something attached to the land? Something that feeds on fear? Or something that just watches, waits, and repeats what it's always done, no matter who's sleeping under that roof? So before I tell you what happened, you should know this. I'm not new to weird stuff. I'm the kind of person who wants there to be a normal explanation first. I'll reach for logic, science, sleep deprivation, anything, before I start calling something paranormal. But what happened this morning, I'm still unsettled. Like I can feel it in my body even now. I live in this pretty average apartment complex on the edge of a busy city. Nothing remote, nothing spooky on paper. Just parking lots, street lights, people coming and going. Still, I've had these small, unsettling moments in my unit over the past year. Little things that don't add up. A shadowy figure I caught in the corner of my eye once. The sound of something pacing when I was alone. And this one time I swear I saw a cat in my kitchen that wasn't mine. It looked at me like it belonged there, and then it was just gone. No sound, no scrambling under furniture, nothing. Anyway, this morning, well, technically still night, I jolted awake around 3:40 a.m. because of this long, drawn-out meow. Not a normal meow. It was stretched, loud, repetitive, like something calling out without stopping. It sounded scared, or hurt. We have 2 cats. One usually sleeps on the bed with us, the other likes curling up in the living room. So my first half-awake thought was, oh no, one of them is in trouble. And I know cat noises. I've had cats my whole life. This wasn't a heat yowl. It wasn't playful. It had that edge of panic. I checked on both of mine, both totally fine. Which is when I realized the sound was coming from outside. I went to the window and leaned out just enough to listen. The sound was coming from directly below, like right under our unit. We're on the second floor, and the porch below us belongs to this guy named Marcos. Quiet neighbor, keeps to himself. I stood there for a second debating whether I should even go down, because it was early and I didn't want to be weird. But that meowing wouldn't stop. It didn't sound like something you ignore. So I slipped on shoes and crept outside. When I reached Marcos's porch, the porch light was already on. That made me pause. Like, why is your light on at almost 4 in the morning? But the meowing had stopped the second I got close, which somehow made it worse. You know how silence can feel louder than noise? I peeked over the little porch wall and saw a cat sitting there, pure white, almost glowing under the light. At first, I couldn't see its face because it was angled away from me, staring at the corner like it was watching something I couldn't see. I tried to get its attention like you normally would. The little pss pss pss, tongue clicks, soft talking. Nothing. Not even the tiniest ear flick. That's when I went back to my unit and grabbed a couple treats, thinking, okay, maybe it's hungry, maybe it's stuck, maybe it's somebody's cat that got locked out. I came back down and gently tossed a treat right in front of it. It landed so close it could have bumped its whiskers. Nothing. No head movement, no sniffing, no blink. Not even that little shift cats do when they're pretending not to care, but they totally care. It was like it didn't register the treat at all. And then I noticed it was trembling. A steady shake through its body. It was chilly outside, mid-50s, but not freeze and shake like that cold. Still, I told myself, maybe it's sick, maybe it's injured, maybe it's terrified. So I stayed, even though something in my chest was starting to tighten. I kept talking to it, soft and slow. Hey, sweetheart, it's okay. Are you lost? Are you hurt? Slowly. Too slowly. Not its body, just the head, like it was being rotated, like it had to think about how to do it. The shaking got worse as it turned, and I remember this really specific, awful thought popping into my mind. Please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. But it did. It turned just enough for us to make eye contact, and I swear to you, every instinct in me screamed. Because its eyes were wrong. Not kind of weird for a cat. Not dilated pupils. Not maybe the light is hitting them strangely. Wrong in a way my brain did not know how to file. They looked human. Full-on human. The shape, the round pupils, the way the iris sat, bright, clear blue. Like someone had taken human eyes and placed them into a cat's face. And I know how dramatic that sounds. I hear myself saying it and I hate it. But that's the closest I can get to what it felt like. I froze for a couple seconds, 2, maybe 3, and I couldn't move. It was like my body just hit a hard stop. Then it opened its mouth and let out one single sound. A meow, technically, but not really. It was raspier, heavier, almost like something doing an impression of a cat. Like when you hear a bird mimic something and it's close enough to fool you until you actually listen. And that sound went straight through me, like it hit something deep and primal and flipped a switch. I backed up without thinking. I didn't say anything. I didn't even breathe right. I just turned and walked, ran, back up the stairs, back into my apartment, and I locked the door like something was about to follow me. I shut the blinds, all of them, every window. Then I sat on the edge of my bed, shaking so hard my teeth felt loose. The adrenaline was insane. The same kind you get when you almost fall, when your body thinks you're about to die. My stomach turned. My skin felt hot and cold at the same time. I started getting nauseous, like my system didn't know what to do with how much fear I'd just dumped into it. Eventually, I took a cool shower and forced down some water and waited for my heart to calm down enough for me to function like a person again. But even now, I can still see it. Those eyes, the slow turn, The way it held the gaze like it knew I was there the whole time and was only pretending not to. I keep trying to explain it. Maybe it was sick. Maybe it was injured. Maybe the lighting made it look wrong. Maybe my brain filled in gaps because I was half asleep and stressed. But the problem is, the image hasn't faded the way a dream does. It's stuck in my head with this sharp, crystal clarity. And I don't know what to do with that. So this happened last summer, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it still creeps me out in a way I can't quite shake. I was on a road trip with my sister Marina, her partner Jules, and their dog Otis. We were driving through southern Oregon into northern California, those long stretches of trees and mountain road where it's gorgeous, but it can also feel weirdly quiet. Too quiet. We just peeled off I-5 outside Medford and started heading west on Highway 199 toward the coast. And pretty early on, I got this feeling I can only describe as heavy, like someone put a blanket over my brain. Nothing had actually happened. The weather was perfect, bright sun, blue sky, that whole postcard vibe. But my body was acting like it knew something I didn't. Then we rolled through Cave Junction, and suddenly that weird feeling wasn't just in my head anymore. All three of us felt it. The town had this rough, unsettled energy, like you could tell there'd been a lot of hard living there. We actually decided not to stop for gas or even use a bathroom, even though we needed to, because none of us wanted to linger. A little while later, we crossed into California, went through this tunnel, and right after it we pulled into a rest stop, the one by the tunnel off 199, because at that point, we had to. No more toughing it out. When we pulled in, it was broad daylight and the whole rest area was pretty empty. I remember thinking, okay, good. Quick stop, in and out. Except the first thing we noticed was this white dog. It was wandering around the pet area alone, no leash, no collar. Kind of a stocky mix, maybe pit bull, maybe something else. And there was no owner in sight. Otis is usually thrilled to jump out of the car anywhere, but we didn't want to let him out with this random off-leash dog roaming around. So we all just kept watching, waiting for somebody to appear and claim it. Marina and I went to the restroom, and right near the entrance, partially blocked by this divider wall, there was a van with its side door open. A woman was leaning into it, digging around like she was looking for something, and a man was yelling at her. Not joking yelling, angry, sharp. And there was music blasting, loud enough that it felt like it filled the whole building. What's wild is I remember the song clearly. It was a familiar rap track, the kind you instantly recognize, and I remember thinking, of course this is the soundtrack to this vibe. Inside the bathroom, while I was washing my hands, my sister stood in the doorway holding it open. From there, you couldn't actually see the van because that divider blocks the view, but the music was still just as loud. We were in there for maybe 10, 15 seconds longer? Not long at all. We step out, and the music is different. Not faded, not quieter, just different, like it had jumped tracks mid-thought. I didn't even look back toward the van because I wanted to be done with the whole rest stop energy as fast as possible. We go back to the car. Jules heads into the restroom while Marina and I stay in the front seats watching the dog area like hawks. And that's when we notice the only other vehicle parked near us. This older sedan, idling. A man got out. To me, and to Marina too, he looked older. Big white beard, plaid shirt, kind of weathered, like someone who'd lived outside a lot. He stood there calling for the white dog like, come on, that kind of thing. But the dog didn't even react. Not a glance. Nothing. Which made both of us immediately think, that is not his dog. He went back to his car, grabbed a dog bowl from the back seat, and walked toward the restroom like he was going to fill it with water. Then he came back, sat with his car door open, and kept calling. And then, this is the part that makes my stomach flip even now. We start to pull out, and suddenly, the white dog is gone, the man is gone, and the car is gone. Just gone. No engine sound, no backing out, no driving past us. Nothing. And here's why that matters. The rest stop is basically a big loop. To exit, you have to drive around and come out the same way you came in, which means that if that car left, it would have had to pass right by us. Marina and I both reacted at the exact same time, like, out loud. Where did he go? I was literally watching him. Because we were watching. We'd been waiting for that whole situation to clear up so we could let Otis out. Jules, trying to keep things normal, drove us back around to the pet area since, technically, the off-leash dog problem seemed solved. And Otis, who normally tries to launch himself out of the car the second a door cracks, refused. Not hesitated, refused. Jules had to physically coax him out, and even then he moved like his paws didn't want to touch the ground. Once he was out, he started sniffing like crazy, fast and frantic, like he was tracking something invisible. Then he startled, actually jumped like something spooked him, and he wouldn't potty. Just wouldn't. Meanwhile, that heavy feeling in my chest was climbing. It wasn't panic exactly. It was more like my body was ringing an alarm and my brain couldn't find the fire. We got back in the car and drove in silence for a long stretch after that, like none of us wanted to say anything and make it more real. That night, at the hotel, we finally started talking about it, trying to piece it together. Marina and I told our version first, and we matched perfectly. White dog alone, older bearded guy in plaid calling for it, dog bowl, then everything vanishing. And then Jules went really quiet, and she said, "That's not what I saw." She told us that while Marina and I were inside the restroom, she saw a young guy get out of that same car. Not older, no beard, black t-shirt, short hair, clapping his hands and calling for the dog like he was trying to hype it up. And she was dead serious when she said it, like there was no uncertainty, no maybe, just certainty. We all stared at each other because here's the thing. We all agreed there was only ever one person connected to that car, one person calling for that dog, but somehow, not the same person. And then Marina said something she hadn't said earlier, and it made it worse. She goes, "Also, the van was gone when we came out." I swear to you, I still felt like I could hear music as we walked back to the car, like it lingered in the air. But Marina insisted the van wasn't there anymore, and the sound had stopped completely. So now we're sitting in a hotel room trying to make normal sense out of a rest stop where a dog was there, then wasn't. A car was there, then wasn't. The only person around somehow looked completely different depending on who was watching, and a van with loud music vanished in a gap of seconds, all in bright sunlight. No fog, no darkness, no maybe we were tired. Just a weird, clean slice of daylight where reality didn't line up. And the part I can't stop thinking about is how Otis reacted. Because people can rationalize almost anything, but dogs don't do that. They just respond. And he responded like something in that place was wrong. Okay, so this happens to me all the time, like daily. But let me just tell you about this week, because it's such a perfect little highlight reel of the universe going, "Oh, you thought you were safe? Cute." So the other morning, I'm in this ridiculously good mood over something so small. I'm thinking about my tea, just a basic black tea, nothing fancy. made in this random winter-themed paper cup I grabbed from the cabinet. And I'm weirdly excited, like genuinely excited. I'm standing there thinking, why am I this happy about tea? But I'm not questioning it because, honestly, a good morning is a good morning. I get to the car, and of course the lid doesn't fit the cup. Of course it doesn't. And I'm like, no worries, babe. I came prepared. I have a backup tumbler in the passenger seat because I'm learning. I'm adapting. I'm thriving. And the universe is like, love that for you. 1 minute later, my cup develops this steady leak that turns my cup holder into a tiny, sad bathtub. Just quietly, persistently, like it's doing it on purpose. Later that same morning, I'm feeling cheerful again because I found leftover mango in the fridge. Perfectly ripe, sweet like candy. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to freeze this for smoothies. I pop it into a freezer container, snap the lid on, feel all accomplished, and literally have this happy little thought like, yum, future me is going to be so grateful. I open the freezer again maybe 20 seconds later and, tell me why, the container launches itself out like it's been waiting for me. It hits the floor and shatters, like it's glass. Pieces everywhere. Mango chunks skidding across the tile like my life is a cartoon. And the thing is, I still had an amazing day. Like, truly. One of my best in a while. I picked up the kids, and we went to the store for exactly one thing. Protein powder. That's it. In and out. I'm feeling productive and unstoppable. We get home, I open it, and there's a rip in the inner seal. And I just stare at it for a second like, okay, fine. I set it aside for a return. No drama. I'm still riding the high of being capable. Then I get into this cleaning and cooking mode that only happens once in a blue moon. And when it does, I feel like a superhero. I decide to make a freezer stash, pancakes and waffles for the week. And somehow, I'm doing it all at once like I have 8 arms. I've got 2 pans going, the waffle iron going, batter here, batter there, flipping, pouring, stacking, like I'm running a breakfast restaurant. And it's going so well. I'm moving fast, I'm organized, I'm not overwhelmed. I'm honestly impressed with myself. And I have this thought, this tiny, innocent thought, like, wow, I am absolutely crushing it. I feel like an octopus right now. And immediately, one of the kids yells, "Mom, the toilet is backing up." Of course it is, naturally. So now we're dealing with that. It's annoying, but whatever. We survive. Kids go to bed. I shut down the kitchen. I'm tired but proud. Normally I do this quick little check into the garage before I lock up, but that night I didn't. I just locked the door and head upstairs feeling so satisfied, like I did so much today. The toilet can be tomorrow. The protein powder return can be later. We're fine. We don't even need groceries because I totally handled everything. Next morning, I wake up early to make lunches. I go into the garage to grab something from the fridge out there and the garage is lit up, bright, like a spotlight. And inside are the groceries we got from Costco. Thankfully, I had frozen most of the meat, except the sausage pack I was saving for breakfast. And all the dairy was done, like, fully lost. And I just stood there in silence, staring into that fridge like it was personally mocking me. Because this is the pattern. I will think something, anything, and within seconds the opposite happens. It's like the universe is waiting for me to have even a flicker of confidence, so it can kick my ankle out from under me. I told my husband that morning, I swear I'm jinxed, or haunted, or I'm accidentally a witch who keeps casting spells on herself. And I'm laughing, but I'm also not joking, because I've always been sensitive. Since I was little, I've had weird experiences, paranormal-ish stuff, That feeling like you know something before it happens. And sometimes I wonder if I'm predicting things, but in the most unhelpful way possible. Like I'll think, okay, don't turn left or you'll knock the sponge into the sink. So I turn right instead, and somehow the sponge still flies out like it got launched, and it lands right in front of my feet like, nice try. And it's driving me nuts because now I don't even want to think things. I don't want to say them out loud. I'll literally stop myself mid-thought like, nope, don't jinx it, don't summon it, don't invite it. It honestly feels like the universe is a snooty, jealous older sister who can't stand seeing me content. So it's like, oh, you're proud of yourself? That's adorable. Here's a flooded cup holder. Growing up, I used to think things and then they'd happen days later, weeks later, months later. Now it's like the universe downs a drink, cracks its knuckles, and responds in real time. So I don't know. Is it coincidences? Is it anxiety? Is it pattern recognition? Is it me being overly tuned in? Or is something else going on? I just know I'm tired of thinking, yay, I'm having a good day, and watching the universe immediately reach for the chaos button. Hey, thanks for being here with me. I've never really known how to tell this story out loud, but I'm going to try. Like I'm sitting across from you, and you've got time, and I can finally breathe through it. A couple years ago, back when I was about 30, I hit a point where my mind wasn't a safe place to live in anymore. I tried to hurt myself. It's hard to even say that sentence without my throat tightening. I ended up in the ER, and after that, everything came back in fragments, like broken glass you're afraid to pick up. The first clear thing I remember is flashing lights and confusion. Someone in uniform trying to calm me down, trying to get something dangerous out of my hands. It all felt unreal, like my body was there but my spirit was floating above it, watching. After that, things got complicated. I spent a short time in a psychiatric unit, and then I landed in a holding facility. I'm not going to dig into every reason I got to that point. Just know this. Life had gotten heavy in a way I didn't know how to carry. I was exhausted from being myself. The first few days inside were the worst. Not because of the place itself, though it wasn't gentle, but because I was trapped with my own thoughts. I kept circling the same dark question. How do I make this stop? They knew I was at risk too. Guards kept checking in, the door slot opening every so often, that quick look, that quick question. It was like being watched and still feeling completely alone at the same time. Then the third night came. There was a storm. You could hear it in the building. Wind worrying at the corners, rain hitting metal like handfuls of gravel. I was on the top bunk, and near my head there was this window that didn't seal right. Cold air poured in like it had somewhere to be. I was shivering so hard my teeth ached. And I remember thinking, so clearly, I can't do this. I can't do one more minute of being me. I tried to shift around, pulling my thin blanket up, turning on my side. And as I closed my eyes, this is where it gets strange. My whole vision went white. Not like a light bulb or a flash, more like being inside a soft brightness. And in that brightness, I saw something that looked like a cushion or a veil, silky, pearly, moving as if it was floating in water. It had that shimmering color you see on seashells. Draped over it were these delicate silver threads all woven together, and every so often there were little stones set into them, like tiny drops of emerald, ruby, and crystal catching the light. It was rotating slowly, like it had its own calm gravity. And the wild part was, it felt like the light was responding to me, like I was part of it, not just looking at it. I opened my eyes fast, like, okay, what was that? And in the spot where that glow had been, There was just a plastic bag caught in the bars. The wind kept tugging at it, stretching it into different shapes. For a second, it looked like a figure with open arms. Now, I'm not a religious person. I'm not here to preach anything to you. But I've always been open-minded, and in that moment, I just stared. My brain tried to file it away as coincidence, as stress, as my mind misfiring. I closed my eyes again, and it was still there. But this time, it wasn't only light. This time it felt present, like something had leaned close. And the cold, listen to me, the cold actually left. Not gradually, not I calmed down a bit. It left, like somebody had wrapped warmth around my ribs from the inside. I felt heat, real heat, spreading through me. And with it came this sensation I don't have better words for. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't relief. It was love. But not the kind people argue about or bargain for. Not the kind that comes with conditions or history or debt. It was so pure it made me realize I'd never fully felt it before. The only comparison I've ever been able to come up with is this. Imagine someone who's been blind their entire life, and suddenly, they can see. Not just shapes, colors, depth, faces, the whole world. That's what it felt like in my chest and my soul, like a missing sense turning on. And it happened fast, maybe 20 seconds total from start to finish. But in those seconds, something in me rearranged. Then it vanished. I opened my eyes again, and the bag was still snagged there, now twisted into some other random shape, just plastic and wind. The storm kept raging like nothing extraordinary had happened. The room was the same. The bunk was the same. My life was still a mess. But I wasn't the same. Because here's what changed. Before that night, I carried so much anger. I'm talking about the kind of anger that feels like it's keeping you alive, like it's the only thing that makes you strong. I held grudges like they were shields. I was always eye for an eye. I'd rehearse old betrayals like they were scripture. After that night, it was like I suddenly understood people. Not in an excusing way, not in a naive way, but in a deeper way. Like I could see how pain travels through families and strangers and generations, how people do terrible things while thinking they're surviving. And I forgave. Not because anyone deserved it, because I finally understood what forgiveness is. It's not saying what happened was okay. It's deciding you're not going to keep bleeding for it. Weeks later, after I got out, I was sitting with my mom, her name is Marisol, and I had so much explaining to do. She'd been terrified. She's always been the spiritual one between us, the kind of person who keeps a little candle and a small image on the dresser. And she told me something I still think about all the time. She said that the night of the storm, she woke up early, saw the rain, and felt this panic rise in her. She started crying and praying, really praying, asking the lady, as she called her, to protect me and give me strength. So what was it? Was it my mind trying to save itself? Was it some strange thread between a mother and her child? Was it the Virgin Mary? Something else? Something I don't have language for? I honestly don't know. But I know what it did. Those seconds didn't magically fix my life. They didn't erase consequences. They didn't make everything easy. But they turned me around. They gave me a direction I didn't have. Forward. And whenever the world gets loud again, whenever my thoughts start trying to drag me back into that old darkness, I remember that warmth. I remember that love that didn't ask me to earn it. So yeah, I don't know what she was, but I still call her her because that's how it felt. And I still believe, somewhere deep down, that I'm not alone in this life, even when it feels like I am. And if you're listening to me and you're in a place where you don't feel safe with your own thoughts, please don't carry it by yourself. Tell someone. Reach out. You deserve help that's real and human, right in the room with you. So, this happens to me daily. And this week was basically the universe saying, "Oh, you thought you were having a nice moment? Cute." Let me start with Monday morning. I'm standing there feeling weirdly, genuinely excited about my tea. Like, giddy. It was just a plain black tea, nothing fancy, sitting in one of those disposable winter-themed cups with snowflakes on it. And I'm smiling like I've won an award for having a good morning. And then my brain goes, this is nice. Today's gonna be smooth. I walk to the car, and the lid doesn't fit the cup. I'm like, no worries, I'm ready, because I've got my backup plan. A little cooling down tea situation, right? I'm prepared. I'm adaptable. I'm thriving. And the universe goes, 1 minute later, great, now it's going to leak, slowly, politely, continuously, until it fills your cup holder. Just a gentle little betrayal, a steady drip of chaos. Later that same morning, I'm in the kitchen and I spot leftover mango, so sweet it tastes like candy. And I'm happy again, because my brain is like, oh, freeze this and you'll have smoothie magic later. So I put it in a freezer-safe container. I even check it later like a proud little squirrel. Yep, frozen. Perfect. Back into the freezer it goes. I'm actually feeling accomplished. I'm thinking, yes, look at me, planning ahead, nourishing my future self. And then, like 20 seconds later, I open the freezer and the container just launches out, like it has an attitude. It shoots out, hits the floor, and shatters like it's made of glass, sending frozen mango chunks everywhere. I just stood there blinking like, are we serious? Is someone pranking me? Do I have a ghost with good comedic timing? And here's the part that's extra confusing. I still had an amazing day. Truly. One of the best days I've had in a while. I picked up the kids from school, my daughter Isla and my son Rowan, and we ran to the store for exactly one thing: protein powder. That's it. I'm doing this whole freezer stash thing, pancakes, waffles, all the easy breakfasts, because I'm trying to set future me up for success. We get home, I open it, and there's a rip in the seal. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll return it. No big deal. Because at this point, I'm practically training for the Olympics of not losing my mind. Then, something possessed me in the best way. I go into full cleaning mode. I'm multitasking like I have 8 arms. I'm cooking 6 things at once: 2 batches of pancakes, 2 batches of waffles, and 2 batches of these oaty pancake things. Everything is running smoothly. Nothing is burning. I'm flipping, stirring, wiping, organizing. I'm moving with purpose. I feel unstoppable. I'm literally thinking, wow, I've never felt so capable. I'm like an octopus. I'm doing it all. And the universe goes, toilet's clogged. Just immediate. Like it heard me getting confident and was like, let's humble her. And honestly, even then I'm like, okay, that happens. It's fine. We deal with it, we get the kids to bed, I shut everything down, and I'm exhausted but proud. Before I go upstairs, I do my usual quick mental checklist. I normally peek into the garage, but that night I don't. I just lock the door and think, look at everything I got done today. The toilet can wait till tomorrow. The return can wait. I don't even need groceries because, listen, I got it done. Next morning, I wake up go downstairs to make lunches, head into the garage to grab something from the garage fridge, and the garage is glowing because the fridge door is open, not wide open, just enough, like a 1-inch gap, like it's been sitting there all night, whispering, "You should have checked." And the Costco groceries I bought? Yeah, most of it is done. Thankfully, I had frozen most of the meat already, except the bacon. So the bacon died for the cause. But all the dairy? Gone. A tragic, expensive puddle of regret. And that's when I'm like, okay, I know coincidences exist. I'm not ignorant. I'm not trying to be dramatic. But I swear to you, I think something, and within seconds, the opposite happens. I even told my husband Elias this morning, dead serious but also half laughing, that I feel jinxed, haunted, or like I'm a witch accidentally casting spells on myself. And the thing is, I am sensitive. Always have been. I've had creepy little paranormal experiences since I was tiny. So now I'm sitting here wondering, is this just me noticing patterns? Or is it something weirder? Because sometimes it feels like I'm not jinxing things. Sometimes it feels like I'm predicting them. Like I'll think, don't go left, you'll bump the sponge. So I turn right instead, like a perfect 90-degree turn away from the sponge. And somehow the sponge still flies over my head and lands right in front of my feet. How is that even possible unless reality is playing games with me? And now I'm at the point where I don't even want to say things out loud, because I'm afraid if I do, it'll happen. So I just keep my thoughts quiet, but it doesn't matter, because it's like thought, immediate opposite. I keep joking that it's the universe proving me wrong, like a snooty, jealous older sister who can't stand seeing me feel happy for 3 seconds. And what's wild is, when I was growing up, it was more delayed. Like I'd think something, and then it would happen days or weeks or months later. Now, it's like the universe took a sip of beer, cracked its knuckles and said, "Watch this." So, I don't know, does anyone else get this? Like your brain speaks and reality immediately heckles you? And if you do, what am I supposed to look into here? Is it anxiety? Pattern recognition? Some kind of intuition? A mischievous spirit with a flair for timing? Because I'm telling you, it's driving me nuts. Hey, okay, so please be gentle with me here, because I'm honestly not even sure I believe what I'm about to say. I moved into this house a couple months ago, and I've been renovating it basically non-stop. It's an older place, early 1940s, maybe late 1930s, and it's definitely been updated over the years, so it's not like I walked into some creaky, cobwebby horror movie set. It looks normal. It should feel normal. But it doesn't. I've lived in a lot of different places. I'm used to the weird little new house adjustment period. Different noises, different layout, your brain learning what's safe and what's just unfamiliar. Except this is different. It's the first time I've ever felt genuinely uneasy in a home, like the space itself is watching me learn it. The first thing is this sound, this really specific flop noise, like something heavy being pushed through a mail slot and landing on the floor. You know that dull smack paper thud? That exact vibe. Except every time I go to check, there's nothing. No flyer, no envelope, not even a draft moving a loose bit of paper. And here's the part that makes me feel a little ridiculous. The sound doesn't seem to have a fixed location. It kind of moves. If I'm on the stairs, it sounds like it came from the hallway. If I step into the hallway, suddenly it's like it came from the stairs. Like it's always just out of reach, always landing in the next place I'm not. I've tried to recreate it. Doors, floorboards, Pipes, the radiator, everything. Nothing matches. And then there's the feeling. I'll just be walking around, holding a paint roller, carrying a box, doing completely normal things, and it hits me. That prickling sensation that someone is standing behind you. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, steady way, like eyes on the back of your neck. So I do the logical thing. I turn around. I check rooms. I open cupboards. I prove to myself over and over that there is nobody there. And still, I can't shake it. Sometimes it's strong enough that my body reacts before my brain does. Like I'll get this sudden shiver, full body, involuntary. Or that heavy pressure behind your eyes, the kind you get right before tears show up, except I'm not sad. Nothing happened. I'm not even in a mood. It's just this weird physical response, like my system is bracing for something it can't explain. And the cold. God, the cold is unreal. I've stayed in places with terrible insulation, old windows, drafty everything. I'm not precious about it. Normally, I'm a put on a hoodie and get on with it person. But this house is different. Even on mild days, it feels like the warmth gets swallowed. The heating works, sure. When I crank it, it heats up. But the second it's off, the chill sinks back in like it was waiting. It's not just winter cold. It's that kind of cold that feels personal, like it's wrapped around the walls. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, because I've said it to myself 100 times. You're spooking yourself. And honestly, that might be true. I love creepy content. Those narrated scary stories, the true accounts, the late-night rabbit holes. I fall asleep to them sometimes. My friend Mr. Ballin is always like, "You're basically inviting your imagination to go wild." And maybe they're right. But then I learned something that messed with me. Behind the house, there's a lake. More like a wide pond, really. And I'd always thought it was just scenic, quiet, the kind of place people walk dogs around. And apparently there's a local story about it. When I first heard it, I rolled my eyes. It sounded too neat, too classic ghost, like something from a cartoon. Pale lady, floating near water, tragic backstory, the usual. But after that, I started noticing how often I avoided looking out toward the lake at night. Not because I saw anything. I haven't. Not once. It's more like, part of me is afraid that the first time I do look, I'm going to see something I can't unsee. And that's where I'm at right now. Stuck between this is just stress and nerves and creepy podcasts, and why does it feel like the house knows when I'm alone? So tell me, what would you do? Because I'm trying to be rational. I'm trying to laugh at myself, but I'm also standing in this freshly renovated hallway, hearing that soft flop sound again, and feeling like I'm sharing the space with something patient. And I don't know if I'm scaring myself, or if I'm finally paying attention. So, back when I was in university, I lived in this little private dorm that was run by nuns. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap, safe, and close enough to campus that I could roll out of bed and be in class in 10 minutes. The building was simple. 2 boarding floors, maybe a dozen girls on each one, and then the ground floor where the 2 sisters lived. I stayed on the top floor, second level, down a narrow hallway that always smelled faintly like floor polish and laundry detergent. There was a strict curfew, 9 p.m., except for one night a month when they pushed it to midnight so everyone could go out and cut loose. Most of the girls treated it like a mini holiday. Clubs, parties, late-night food, the whole thing. Me? I was not that girl. I had a mountain of coursework and 0 interest in drinking or being out late, so I stayed behind with my laptop and a stack of notes, feeling pretty smug about my productivity. That night, right around 9, I'm sitting in my room with the door locked, deep in a project, when I hear this awful sound. Metal chairs scraping hard against the dining room floor. Not one chair, a bunch of them. Like someone was dragging chairs back and forth for no reason at all. It goes on long enough that I finally set my pen down and just listen. 30 seconds, maybe more. No voices, no laughter. Just that relentless scraping. So I get up, open my door, and peek out into the dining area. Pitch dark, empty, no one. I flip on the light, expecting to catch someone messing around, or maybe a girl sneaking a late snack. But the room looks normal. Chairs tucked in neatly, tables exactly where they always were. Nothing out of place. It's the kind of normal that makes you feel silly for being nervous. I tell myself it's probably just pipes or the building settling. Old buildings make weird noises, right? And I go back to my room, shut the door, and try to focus. And then it starts again. Same scraping, same intensity. This time I'm faster. I open my door almost immediately, like I'm going to catch the sound in the act. And the second I step out, it stops. Just gone. Like someone hit mute. I walk over, look around again. Still nothing. Still neat. Still empty. Now I'm officially unsettled. I knew most of the girls had left earlier. I'd seen them heading out in groups, fixing their hair in the hallway mirror, laughing, calling out quick goodbyes. But I still went up and down the second floor to check. Every door was closed. Quiet. Except for one other girl who had stayed behind to study too. Her name was Maria. Sweet, shy, always polite. I knock softly and ask if she's been moving chairs around or heard anything weird. She just stares at me, genuinely confused, and says, "What chairs?" Not in a joking way. Not teasing. She looked like I'd asked her if the ceiling was on fire. When I described the noise, her face changed. Like she didn't want to believe me, but something in her was connecting dots she didn't like. She admitted she hadn't heard a thing, but she asked if I could stay with her for a little while anyway. Like she suddenly didn't want to be alone. So I did. We sat in the hallway for a bit, whispering about assignments, pretending everything was normal, both of us listening too hard to every tiny creak. Eventually, she went back into her room, and I returned to mine. I tried to laugh it off. I even managed to get a few solid hours of work done. Then midnight came. I hear 3 knocks on my door. I figure, okay, the girls are back. Someone needs something. Maybe they lost their key or want to borrow a charger. I open the door. No one. The hallway is dark. Every other door is shut. No footsteps. No giggling. No distant chatter drifting up from the stairs. Just silence. I stand there for a second, kind of holding my breath, then close the door and go back to my desk because, honestly, I had deadlines and I didn't want to spiral. A little while later, 3 knocks again. Same pattern. Same calm, intentional rhythm. This time I call out, "Yeah?" Nothing. I open the door again. Still no one. Now I'm irritated and nervous at the same time because the most logical explanation is that someone is messing with me. But the hallway is empty, and I don't hear anyone running away, and the building is quiet in that heavy, late-night way. So I lock the door. And of course, because life loves timing, the 3 knocks come again. Knock, knock, knock. I sit frozen for a moment, then I lean close to the door and say, "Who is it?" No answer, not even a breath. I don't open it this time. I just put my headphones on, even though I wasn't really listening to anything. I just wanted a barrier between me and whatever was happening outside that door. I stayed in my room the rest of the night. No bathroom trips, no hallway checks, nothing. I just waited for morning like it was a finish line. A few hours later, I started getting this awful stomach pain, sharp and rolling, the kind that makes you feel nauseous and clammy. I remember thinking, great, as if I needed one more thing. But I was too scared to step out into the hallway, so I curled up in bed and tried to breathe through it until I fell asleep. After that night, nothing happened again. But a few days later, something did change. Our dorm had a tiny chapel, and once a week a priest would come for a short service. That part was normal. What wasn't normal was what happened afterward. The sisters invited him upstairs, like all the way up to the boarding floors. I'd lived there over a year by then, and I had never seen that happen. Not once. I didn't know what he did up there. I was on my way out to class, and I didn't want to sound dramatic or superstitious, so I didn't ask. I just watched him pass by with the sisters, calm as could be, like this was just another item on the schedule. And that was it. No more chair scraping, no more knocking, no more weird, heavy silence pressing against my door. I stayed in that dorm for the rest of my time in university, years, and nothing like that ever happened to me again. But I still remember how it felt in that hallway at midnight, staring into the dark, realizing there was no one there, and knowing, deep in my stomach, that something had still knocked anyway. So I was probably about 7, maybe 8 when this happened. Little enough that bedtime still felt like a whole event. And honestly, nights were rough for me back then. I was terrified of the dark in a way that wasn't just, I don't like it, but like, my whole body would brace for something bad the second the lights went out. I'd lie there with this heavy, sinking dread because sleep didn't feel safe. Part of it was the darkness itself, but part of it was my dreams. Super vivid, hyper-real dreams that felt like they followed me even after I opened my eyes. Sometimes I'd wake up and just know something was wrong, even if nothing looked wrong yet. And I'd be too scared to even sit up and turn on a little lamp, because what if the moment I moved, I'd see something I wasn't supposed to see? My room had a setup I can still picture perfectly. On my left was the window. At night, I wouldn't even glance in that direction, like the glass could show me something looking back. The blinds stayed shut every night, no exceptions. On my right was this big desk, kind of old and heavy looking, with shelves above it. My mom kept a few decorations up there, including some dolls. And there was one in particular that made my stomach twist every time I remembered it existed. It was this little girl doll sitting on a tiny wooden rocking horse. The doll had pale blonde hair in 2 neat pigtails, tied off with little ribbons, and she wore this old-fashioned dress, dark green, like something out of a history book. It looked like it belonged in another century. I hated it. Not because it was ugly or broken or anything. It was just too lifelike. I was always scared that I'd look up and catch it rocking, just slightly, or see its head turned when it hadn't been turned before. And the creepy part is, that doll wasn't just a random toy. It had been a gift from my mom's aunt, Aunt Darlene, who'd passed away not long before that. So it already had this weird, heavy feeling attached to it, even if nobody said it out loud. Anyway, I don't remember falling asleep. I just remember waking up. It was the middle of the night, and I snapped awake like someone had yanked me up out of a dream. My heart was already going, already panicked, like it knew something before my brain did. I was lying flat on my back, staring into the darkness. I tried to do the normal kid thing, like, okay, calm down, roll over, get comfortable, go back to sleep. So I slowly turned onto my left side. And the second I turned, there was a girl standing right next to my bed. Not a kid-sized shape, not a shadow. A life-size girl, right there, so close I could have reached out and touched her. And she looked exactly like the doll. Same hairstyle, same old-fashioned dress, same small, rigid posture. She wasn't moving, just standing there, watching me like she'd been there the whole time, and I just finally noticed. There was this strange light behind her, like a dull yellow glow seeping through the blinds, even though my blinds were shut. It didn't make sense, but it was enough to backlight her. Her whole front was in shadow, so I couldn't see her face at all. Just the outline of her head, the pigtails, the shape of the dress, the rocking horse doll silhouette, but full-sized. And I swear to you, the fear that hit me was like my blood turned to ice, like my body stopped being mine. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe right. I just reacted. I yanked the blanket over my head as fast as I could, like if I couldn't see her, she couldn't finish whatever she came to do. That was the thought. Not a clear sentence, just this animal feeling. Don't look, don't move, don't let it know you're here. So I stayed like that. Eventually, I could tell morning was coming. Not because I saw light, but because the air felt different. The silence felt different. And when I finally worked up the courage to lower the blanket, there was nothing there. No girl, no glow, no sign anything had ever happened. The room looked exactly the same. Desk, shelves, the dolls all sitting where they always sat. But I didn't feel relieved. I felt violated, like my room had betrayed me. And I kept that to myself for a long time. Years. Because how do you even say it out loud without someone brushing it off or laughing, or, maybe worse, looking worried? Now that I'm older, I can look back and connect the dots. I'm pretty sure I was dealing with sleep paralysis starting really young, before I even had words for it. And I also get those weird in-between hallucinations sometimes. The ones that happen when you're falling asleep or just waking up. The brain sort of half dreaming, half awake, blending reality with something else. As a kid and teenager, it was always the same kind of theme. Dark shapes in corners, something on the ceiling, the sense of a presence, sometimes even figures around the bed. And the worst part wasn't just seeing things, it was being trapped. Like your body won't listen to you, like you're screaming internally but nothing comes out. I barely get the paralysis itself anymore, thankfully. These days, if anything, I'll get those awful, false wake-ups where you think you've gotten up and escaped, and then you realize you're still in bed, still stuck, and it loops again. It's exhausting. But that night, back when I was little, I didn't know any of that. I only knew what I saw. A life-size version of that rocking horse doll, standing beside my bed in the dark, watching me. And even now, part of me still wonders, was it only my brain misfiring in that half-awake state? Or was it something that chose the shape I'd fear the most, because it knew exactly what would make me hide? So, I bought this place in September of 2018. A big, creaky, Victorian-ish farmhouse that was built back in 1919. The kind of house that looks like it's holding its breath half the time, you know? Beautiful, but always settling. Always making little noises, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. About 10 days after I moved in, I had my first real moment. I was sitting at my desk, just scrolling on my laptop, totally alone in the house. And I felt a hand rest on my right shoulder. Not a brush, not my shirt shifting. A hand, heavy enough that my body reacted before my brain even caught up. I spun around like, what the? And there was nobody there. Just empty space. Quiet. The house doing that thing old houses do, where it feels like it's listening back. After that, it was smaller stuff for a while. A bedroom door I know I latched would be cracked open in the middle of the night. A kitchen cabinet would be hanging open like someone forgot to close it. And honestly, I told myself all the reasonable things. Old hinges, uneven floors, wood expanding and contracting. Anything to make it feel normal. But the part that didn't feel normal was the feeling, especially upstairs. If I went to the second floor alone, there were times I'd get this steady, prickly sense of being watched, like I'd stepped into someone else's space and they were waiting to see what I'd do. And the basement had this little coal storage room, more like a tight, unfinished pocket off to the side. And every time I even stood near it, my stomach would drop. Like my body was warning me, no, don't go in there. Not fear exactly, more like a deep, sour, you shouldn't be here. Things didn't really ramp up until 2020 when my partner, who's now my wife, moved in. Her name's Mara, and Mara is the kind of person who notices everything. Not long after she moved in, she started telling me she could hear voices in the basement. Two people, a man and a woman, talking like they were having a normal conversation. Not yelling, not whispering dramatically, just talking. Like the basement was a living room, and they were down there keeping each other company. Then she started seeing movement out of the corner of her eye, like someone stepping out of a doorway or crossing a hall. And when she'd turn her head, nothing. And here's the part that got under my skin. One night, kind of casually, she admitted she suspected the house had something going on before she even moved in. Turns out, she'd known people who knew the previous owners, and apparently the owner's kids used to talk about Granddad, like he was just around, like he was another member of the household. They'd say they played with him, and they'd laugh about how he always talked about treasure hidden upstairs, like there was something tucked away in the walls. I remember Mara telling me that and kind of smiling, trying to keep it light. But I also remember thinking, okay, so it's not just me losing it. And what's strange is, not everything about it has felt malicious. Some of it has been weirdly helpful. Mara has this habit, she used to anyway, of falling asleep on the couch and waking up with her back all twisted up. One day she told me, I can't keep doing that, I'm wrecking myself. And after that, a few different times when she dozed off out there, she got shaken awake. Not gently, not like a dream jolt, like someone actually put hands on her and went, hey, get up. And the timing, it was only a couple minutes after my alarm should have gone off. Like somebody noticed. Like somebody was like, you're late. That was the first time I heard them clearly enough to know it wasn't pipes or the TV or my imagination. There have been other moments too, moments that make your skin go tight. One night we watched Mara's purse get launched off this little shelf in the dining room. And I mean launched. It didn't just slip and fall. It had this upward arc to it, like someone flicked it up and over, and it went sailing across the room before it hit the floor. We both just stared at it like, did you see? Yeah, I saw it. Another time, I was sitting by the front door putting my boots on, and I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Clear as day. Heavy enough to make the boards talk. I looked up expecting to see Mara. Nobody. Not on the stairs, not at the landing, not anywhere. Mara hears those footsteps more than I do. She's told me sometimes, in bed, she'll feel someone lean in, like a presence hovering close, checking on us. And she'll just say, softly, we're okay. And then she'll feel it pull back, and she'll hear the steps go back down. Like whoever it is just making sure we're safe. And then, this is where it gets even stranger. Around late 2021, we started seeing a cat. but not a real cat. It was this gray-black blur at first, always in the corner of my eye. I'd think, oh, it's the cat, and I'd turn my head and there'd be nothing. But Mara saw it more clearly. She swears she saw it fully sprawled out near the hallway like it owned the place. A couple of times, lying in bed, I felt something jump up onto the mattress and press against my side, like an animal curling up. I even reached down, half asleep, to pet it, expecting fur, warmth, that familiar little shift of a body breathing. Nothing. Just air. Mara told me when that happens, she feels the temperature drop on that side of the bed, like cold spilling across the sheets. And once she said she could feel it purring. Not with sound exactly, but with that vibration you feel through a mattress when a cat settles in and gets comfortable. And here's the weirdest detail. Our TV sits on a dresser, and sometimes the screen will start to sway, just slightly, like something is rubbing behind it. Like an animal slipping back there the way cats do, brushing and bumping and making things wobble. Since that cat showed up, since the ghost cat, I guess, I don't get that heavy, negative feeling as often. The house still has moments. Every now and then you'll walk into a room and the air will feel off, like you walked in mid-sentence and the conversation stopped. But it's different now. Less sharp, less hostile. And I don't know how to explain that without sounding completely ridiculous. But sometimes it honestly feels like the cat changed the mood of the whole place. Like it softened something. Like whatever tension used to sit in the corners got chased out. The way cats somehow make a home feel lived in just by existing in it. So yeah, that's where we're at. We live in a beautiful old house with creaky floors, a basement that still makes me cautious, two quiet voices that seem to keep their distance, and a cat we can't prove exists, except for the way the bed dips, the air goes cold, and the whole place feels a little calmer when it's around. Okay, so I don't really know how to tell this without sounding like I'm trying to convince you of something. I'm not. I'm just laying it out the way it happened, because it's been years now, and I swear the house has a personality. Or something in it does. So, quick setup. My place was built in the early 70s, 1972, I think. It's a small, one-story bungalow in a quiet neighborhood of Jensen Beach, Florida. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, a little over 1,200 square feet. Nothing fancy. I'm the 4th owner. I live alone, and my fiancée, Maya. She's overseas right now, so it's just me and the dogless silence most nights. The house was renovated right before I bought it. Fresh paint, new floors, the whole move-in ready thing. It had been a rental at some point too, which always makes you wonder how many different lives have been lived in the same rooms, you know? Anyway, about 3 weeks after I moved in, the first weird thing happened. Every night I close my bedroom door. Not slam it, not dramatize it, just close it. Normal. But once in a while, I'd wake up in the morning and the door would be stuck. Not like swollen wood stuck, like latched stuck. Like the lock had been turned just enough that I couldn't open it without forcing it. It doesn't happen as much anymore, but it used to freak me out because, I live alone. Who's locking me in my room? Then about 6 months after moving in, it started doing this thing with the door to the garage. That's my main exit. I never lock it because the garage itself is secure and my washer and dryer are out there. But sometimes I'd open the door to step through, and the second I crossed the threshold, bam! The door would slam back like it was offended I was leaving. And when I'd turn around, the deadbolt would be fully extended, smacking into the door frame like somebody had thrown it out on purpose. I'm telling you, I'd just stand there in the garage, staring at it, thinking, how? Because I didn't touch the deadbolt. And I'm not the kind of person who sleepwalks and locks doors for fun. Then there's the attic. The attic is basically useless. Super low, all trusses, barely any room to move. But a few times a year, 3 or 4 maybe, I'll hear it. It's this rhythm, like footsteps but muted, like thump, 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 moving across the ceiling from one end of the house to the other. And it's not quick like a squirrel. It sounds deliberate, like someone taking their time, pacing, up and down the length of the house. I've climbed up there with a flashlight before, and there's never anything. Just insulation, beams, and that heavy, don't stay up here too long feeling. Now, more recently, like the last month or so, I started noticing something at my bay window in the living room. It's frosted glass, so you can't really see clearly outside, but you catch movement. People walk their dogs on my street all the time. Joggers, kids on scooters, the usual. Except sometimes I'll see a shadow sweep past the window, human-shaped, like a person walking by, and I'll immediately get up to look because I'm nosy like that. And I swear to you, most times, there's no one there. Not, they already passed. I mean, the street is empty like it got wiped clean. One time there was someone, a guy walking a dog, and I felt relieved like, okay, I'm not losing it. But the rest of the time? Nothing. And here's where it gets a lot. I plugged them in around dusk on the first night. I remember checking my phone while I did it because I was proud of myself. Like, look at me, festive. That night, at exactly 7 p.m., one candle turned on, then another, then another. By 7:01, they were all on. I'm not exaggerating. It was like they were taking attendance. And then in the morning, exactly 6 a.m., one would click off, then another, then another. By 6:01, they were all off. Every night, every morning, like clockwork. I got so creeped out I took one apart. I'm not an electrician, but I expected to find some obvious little timer component hidden inside. There was nothing. Just a bulb, wiring, the plug, basic parts. No smart features. No reason they should have been doing that. Last Christmas, I didn't even put them out. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I just didn't want to invite that back. Now, this next part is the one that really messes with me because it's physical. Ever since I moved in, off and on, my bed will shake at night while I'm in it. Not like an earthquake, not violent, just side to side, maybe half an inch. But it's instantly recognizable because it feels exactly like when a kid grabs the mattress and shakes it to wake you up. Just enough movement to be unmistakable. Sometimes it lasts 30 seconds. Sometimes it lasts 3 or 4 minutes. And here's the weirdest detail. It happens more when I run my little rain sound machine, like white noise. If I have the TV on, it almost never happens. But the rain machine? That's when it shows up, like it prefers the dark and the cover of sound. Then, last year, 2025, it escalated. This happened 3 times, and every time it was the same. I sleep on my side because my back is messed up from old injuries, usually my right side. And I'll feel the mattress dip behind my legs, like something has just sat down. Not a full person, more like a concentrated weight. Like someone placed a heavy medicine ball on the bed, maybe 20 pounds or so. My legs get this hollow space under them because the mattress is pushed down, and then this is the part that makes my skin crawl. My legs go cold. Not I kicked off the blanket cold, like the warmth gets pulled out of them. It lasts a few minutes, and then it's gone, like nothing happened. And then, once. Only once. Mid-December 2025, around 9 p.m. I had the rain machine on. A couple minutes in, the bed started doing the familiar shake, side to side, that wake-up motion. Then the weight pressed down behind my legs. My legs went cold. And then I heard it. A growl. Low, throaty, like a dog warning you. It only lasted a second or two, so quick that if I'd coughed, I might have missed it. But I didn't miss it. I felt it in my chest more than my ears. I turned on every light in the house. I walked through every room like I was doing a security check, even though I didn't really believe I'd find anything. I checked the closets. I checked the garage door. I stood in the hallway listening to the silence like it might explain itself. And then I slept on the couch, lights on, because I just couldn't climb back into that bed like everything was normal. So yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. I'm not asking you to tell me it's a ghost. I'm not even saying I believe it's a ghost. I just know what I've experienced, and I know how it feels. Like the house is doing little things to remind me it's there. And sometimes it's not just the house.